From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 13th of August. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver. To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
Despite pledge after pledge after pledge after pledge to smash the gangs, new data shows that the number of people smugglers arrested has actually fallen since Labour came to power. At the same time, there's been a 50% surge in crossings since the one-in, one-out migrant deal with France was announced.
Well, in a breaking development, GB News can reveal that the largest ever dinghy and the largest ever load of migrants arrived in UK waters last night.
US Vice President JD Vance, well, he's holidaying in the Cotswolds, beautiful, but he's also made time to meet both Robert Jenrick and Nigel Farage. But no meeting with the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch.
It's all planned, says Kemi Badenoch. They had not planned to meet. They are good friends. But what does it mean for the links between top Tories and, of course, the Republican movement?
Elsewhere, police have been told to share suspects' ethnicity and nationality with the public after authorities were accused of covering up offences carried by asylum seekers. Is this the right approach?
And more live facial recognition vans will be rolled out across 7 police forces in England to locate suspects for crimes including sexual offences, violent assaults and murders. But will the use of these vans treat us all as a nation of suspects?
And the Treasury is looking at ways to raise more money from inheritance tax amid growing pressure on the country's finances. Could Rachel Reeves be grabbing your granny?
8 decades ago, Jim Wren was enduring brutal conditions as a prisoner of war, captured by Japan 3 years earlier.
As the anniversary of the Allies' victory over Japan nears, GB News has spoken to a remarkable veteran who's been honoured with a royal visit from the Duchess of Edinburgh.
Elsewhere, England has entered its 4th heatwave of the summer. In other words, summer, with a number of places seeing temperatures higher than 30 degrees centigrade.
It's quite hot, Tom. Well, yes, it is summer, but do think of those who suffer in the heat, Tom.
Look.
Have a thought for those who aren't as cool as a cucumber as yourself.
Get some air conditioning.
Yes, okay, yes. Every day we're going to be talking about air conditioning on this show, so make sure you tune in for the latest on where we are with that.
I'm such a hypocrite, though, because I don't have air conditioning at my house, but I will. I'm determined that this is the year that I get some.
But I am genuinely astonished by the front page of The Independent this morning with this exclusive that the National Crime Agency, their own data, is showing that the number of arrests are falling of people smugglers, despite us being told that the government's top priority is to smash the gangs. How can it be that the number of people crossing illegally has increased 50%, and at the same time the number of arrests has not followed such a trajectory?
See, I thought I could sort of understand a world in which the Labour Party and the government was going after the gangs and arresting, you know, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people smugglers, but the boats kept coming because, you know, more gangs spring up because there's a lot of market demand. I could sort of understand that world. But we're not even in that world.
No, we're not in that world.
Where there are fewer people smugglers being arrested in this 12-month period than the previous 12-month period. I mean, what are they doing? I'm sure
16% down on the Conservatives.
Number one, we've got a returns deal with France that doesn't net return anyone to France.
Correct.
Number two, we've got a smash the gangs policy that is smashing fewer gangs.
Yep.
And number three, we've got a 50% increase in the number of people arriving since the returns deal came in. And number four, we have the highest number of small boat migrant crossings on record this year.
And number five, as Mark White just told us, we now have record-busting dinghies. The largest ever dinghy with the largest number of people on it, reaching our shores today.
It does seem that sort of from every angle, this is an unmitigated failure. It's very hard to see a point of light in this tunnel.
Well, Robert Jenrick is saying there's never been a better time to be a people smuggler. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it doesn't look like he's wrong, really, does it?
Well, we'll be sticking into that and many more stories, of course, after your very latest news headlines with Sam.
Tom, Emily, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Just after midday, the top story, a record 107 migrants have arrived in the UK on just a single small boat in what officials say is a worrying new development in channel crossings. The vessel, a longer design than the inflatable rafts normally used, was recovered and taken to Dover for examination by Border Force. Authorities fear the larger boats could allow people smugglers to send even bigger groups across. So far this year, almost 27,200 migrants have now crossed the Channel. That is up 47% on the same point in 2024. Today alone, around 200 more arrivals have so far been recorded. Live facial recognition is being rolled out across England and Wales as part of a major overhaul of neighbourhood policing. 10 camera-equipped vans will be deployed in 7 police force areas to target sex offenders and suspects wanted for the most serious crimes. The Home Office says the algorithm has been independently tested and will be used only in specific circumstances with, they say, robust oversight. Privacy campaigners, though, are raising concerns, but police chiefs insist the technology is used ethically and has already helped locate thousands of offenders. Well, that comes as police forces are also being encouraged to name the ethnicity and nationality of suspects in high-profile or sensitive investigations to counter misinformation. It's under immediate changes from the National Police Chiefs Council. The move, backed by ministers, follows incidents where a lack of detail fuelled false rumours, including the Southport murders that preceded riots across the country. Details will still be released at the discretion of individual forces with the legal and ethical factors in mind. An immigration status checks will remain the Home Office's responsibility. Critics are warning it could create unrealistic expectations for disclosure in every case, but Policing Minister Dame Deanna Johnson says the guidance will bring greater transparency and public confidence.
I would really welcome the openness and transparency of giving that information about ethnicity and nationality at the point of charge. We will give names and addresses often at that point, but in these high-profile cases, it's absolutely right that that transparency is there and that the information is provided. In terms of asylum seekers and the status of any claim they're making, that in future, in cases, that will be looked at and that information could be made available. We're working through now how that would actually work.
And just before I hand you back to Tom and Emily, a 16-year-old girl we are hearing and two boys aged 14 and 15 have been charged with murder. That's a 49-year-old Alexander Cashford in Laysdown-on-Sea. Police were called shortly after 7 p.m. on Sunday following a disturbance involving a small number of people. Sadly, Mr Cashford was found with multiple injuries and died at the scene. The three teenagers, all from London, were arrested soon afterwards and will appear at Midday Magistrates Court later today. Those are the latest headlines for now. Let's get back to Tom and Emily.
Good afternoon, Britain. Some breaking news just coming into us. The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has been in Calais today on his own fact-finding mission. But whilst doing so, he says he had a knife pulled on him. Well, I'm delighted to say that Chris Philp joins us now. Chris, what on earth happened?
Well, I visited the so-called Jungle 2, the new jungle camp, where migrants waiting to cross the channel are camped. It's at a place called Grand Sens, which is in the part of Calais. It's in just outside Dunkirk, not far from Calais. And I was talking to migrants there literally about 10 or 15 minutes ago. And first of all, as I was talking to some migrants, another one pulled out a curved machete and started brandishing it, at which point we left pretty quickly. And then as we were leaving, we got pelted with glass bottles, and as we drove off, other like bottles got thrown at the car. So it was a pretty nerve-wracking experience. There were only like 5 of us, and there are, I don't know how many illegal migrants, probably 1,000 or 2,000 in that camp. So it was a slightly unsettling experience. But everyone got out okay.
Well, glad to hear you
and
and your...
about 10 or 15 minutes ago.
Just 10, 15 minutes ago. Glad to hear you and your team are safe and do continue to stay safe. Did you get any idea of what nationality this man with the machete was?
Well, in the area of the camp, we were talking to people. There were 2 nationalities. There were Eritreans and there were Afghans. I don't know what the nationality of the guy with the knife was, but it was Eritreans and Afghans in the particular part of the camp that we were in. I spoke to one man and I said, like, it's illegal to... We'd seen him earlier, actually, with a life jacket, obviously planning to cross. And I said, look, it's illegal to cross the channel. He said, I don't care about that. They'd heard about the hotels that the government are going to put them in. They talked about the fact it's easier to work in the UK. You know, presumably that's a reference to the Deliveroo scandal. And these people, even though they were in France, which is obviously a safe country, they could easily claim asylum in France if they wanted to, but they're choosing to illegally make these crossings instead. And, you know, I'm not sure people who, you know, pull knives, I'm not sure. These people are on their way to the UK in the dinghies. And, you know, we were certainly pretty seriously threatened just a few minutes ago.
This is, of course, it sounds like it's a relatively lawless area with very little police presence, with people brandishing machetes. I mean, why did you put yourself in this situation as the Shadow Home Secretary? Is this... Why did you sort of head towards the danger here?
Well, so first of all, you're right to say there were no police that I could see anyway in the camp itself. We did take a French security expert with us. But the reason I went there is I wanted to find out what was going on the ground. I wanted to talk to people directly and find out why they're choosing to leave a safe country, France, to come to the UK, even though it's illegal. I wanted to understand what was going on there and to understand what was, like, why they're making these illegal journeys when they are already in a safe country. That was the reason for going there. And I also came to Calais region, and I've been actually mostly more towards Dunkirk than Calais, was to see what the French law enforcement are doing. In the case of that camp, which one of the migrants himself described as the Jungle 2, there was no police presence in the camp, and there wasn't much police presence on the beaches. I posted some videos on Twitter or X earlier this morning. I was out on the beaches from 3 o'clock this morning, beaches where yesterday there were embarkations. The pictures on the front page of the Times, I think it was either yesterday or today, were taken on that beach. And yet when I went there between 3 o'clock in the morning and about 8 o'clock in the morning, when embarkations would occur, there were not French police on that beach patrolling. So I was also here to find out about the French law enforcement approach.
Now, this is not a new issue, of course. I mean, the question is, why now? Why all this interest right now? We've had journalists go over, we've had GB News journalists go over to the area and see this firsthand as well. This problem was very much ongoing throughout the Conservative government as well. Why all this interest now, and why weren't you so curious, you know, a couple of years ago?
Well, actually, you know, the last Conservative government, in its last full year, 2023, did actually get the numbers down by a third, and we had a plan ready to go July of last year to ensure that every illegal arrival was immediately removed either to their home country or to Rwanda. But Labour cancelled that. And why are we now talking about this, everyone? Well, it's because this year, instead of the numbers continuing to go down, they have in fact surged. They've gone up massively, as you were reporting a few minutes ago. And this year so far, 2025, has been the worst year in history for these illegal crossings. They've gone up by nearly 50% compared to last year. Keir Starmer said he was going to smash the gangs. Well, he hasn't smashed the gangs. He said he's got a new deal that's going to be a deterrent. Well, I've just been in the camp talking to migrants that Keir Starmer's deal is supposed to be deterrent. And I can tell you this, having been there literally 15 minutes ago, no one in that camp is deterred. They are all determined to come to the UK. And I saw lots of people wandering around there carrying life jackets. And we know why they were carrying life jackets, because they're planning to get on a small boat, or now a not-so-small boat.
Chris, you're right to say in 2023 the crossings were down by a third. But of course, the Tories were in power January, February, March, April, May, June, and a little bit of July 2024. And through those months, we saw an uptick again in the crossings. 2024, of course, turned into a higher year than 2023. The rebound began when the Conservative Party was still in office. How much control do politicians actually have on this situation? Or is it more absolutely exogenous factors?
Well, I think it can be controlled. We got it down by a third in 2023. We had a Rwanda plan that would have removed everybody who crossed the channel illegally, and that would have been a deterrent. If the people in that camp thought they were going to wind up in Rwanda, they would not cross the channel, obviously. Other countries have done this. Take the USA.
Why did it start to pick up again then under your watch in 2024?
Well, obviously, the Rwanda scheme, which would have, I think, ended this, got delayed by the courts. That's why we saw that uptick. I would add, by the way, that this year is far worse than 2024. Yeah. But I think had that Rwanda scheme not been delayed for about a year and a half by the courts, we would have seen those numbers continuing to fall as they fell in 2023. But you ask, can this be controlled? Yes, it can, with the right willpower. We've seen America get their illegal numbers down to pretty much zero across the Mexican border, even though that is a 3,000-mile land border. Yeah. They have done that, and I was discussing that just yesterday.
Well, it's certainly possible. Anything is possible, and at the moment the public feel totally powerless on this. Chris Philp, stay safe, stay safe. We'll speak to you again, I'm sure, soon. Chris Philp there, the Shadow Home Secretary. The fact that there's migrants in these camps with machetes, at least one, slightly worrying about the types of people who are being able to illegally come to this country. In the studio with us, we have Christopher Hope, our political editor.
Just at the very end, he said, talking yesterday about America. Of course, he reportedly met J.D. Vance yesterday. So was J.D. Vance giving the Tories some tips on controlling these very long borders? And that may be informed why you got Chris Philp this morning at dawn pointing out the lack of French police.
That is very interesting then, because
we should get him on and back.
Well, exactly. I was trying to.
Sorry, Chris.
Well, I wonder if we can get Chris Philp back.
You should ask him that question.
Time. But this is interesting, is it not? Because Kemi Badenoch reportedly hasn't met with J.D. Vance.
Well, that's right. So I was with Kemi Badenoch yesterday for your programme in the Isle of Wight. 2 weeks ago, she arranged to go there with Mel Stride, and a whole programme was set up for us. You couldn't really let down the people of the Isle of Wight to meet with J.D. Vance yesterday, when the senior Tories, we think Robert Jenrick, was confirmed to have met J.D. Vance yesterday, and possibly possibly Chris Philp too, but we'd like to hear more on that.
Isn't that an interesting point? Kemi Badenoch did not meet the Vice President of the United States, although she has met him before.
Yes, they are friends.
And they've posted selfies together on Twitter before.
Must be friends.
But of course, he has met with Nigel Farage today.
Nigel Farage isn't confirming that. He told me last night he won't confirm either way who he's meeting in his private capacity. So that's where we are with that. But yes, it looks like we are seeing Tom Skinner, of course, he's known as the sometime mattress salesman and a reality TV star, and certainly someone a star on social media. He's also met with JD Vance. It is causing quite a lot of chaos, by the way, in the Cotswolds. We may have a video, I think, of the scale of the motorcade of JD Vance in the Cotswolds. We can show you now.
I'm afraid to say we don't yet have it.
I was told it was there.
We will bring it.
It is It is a lot of vehicles, and compare that with our head of state, the King, when he travels.
How many? Are we talking 2 or 3? Are we talking 6, 7, 8,
It looks
9?
like 20. I mean, it looks like a lot of vehicles.
Wow, for a trip to the Cotswolds.
Viewers might be wondering why on earth is Chris Philp in northern France. Robert Jenrick's been there as well. We'll see more from him tomorrow. Both these two politicians are almost in a kind of attempt to beat the other one to France and get the story out from the migrant camps. Of course, GBNews has had presenters in northern France too.
Yeah.
It is risky. I mean, seriously risky what happened there with the curved Machete, as you heard there, and his car being pelted. We'll hear more from Robert Jenrick shortly. Does it work, this kind of MPs as citizen journalists? Well, figures found by GBNews show it does work. So when Robert Jenrick went to highlight what he said were fare dodgers on the London Underground network, the numbers of people being arrested or dealt with since then in a month after increased by 60%.
Yeah.
So while it's risky and it's different...
It can really highlight that issue.
It can, and you yourself have been cleaning tube carriages, Tom, haven't you?
That caused a bit of a ruckus at City Hall. Christopher Hope will be back with you a bit later in the programme, but we must bring on to this GB News exclusive now. We can reveal that 107 people were crammed onto just one migrant boat overnight, the biggest single boatload ever to arrive in UK waters.
GB News can also reveal they crossed in a new design of boat, bigger than those normally used.
Well, this, as new data from the National Crime Agency suggested, arrests of people smugglers are down since Labour came to power, despite Keir Starmer's insistence that his government are smashing the gangs.
Well, our Home and Security editor Mark White joins us live from Dover. Mark White, this is the biggest ever dinghy.
Yes, it is. It's been described to me as a mega dinghy and also as a deeply worrying development in terms of the Channel migrant crisis by maritime security sources. This type of dinghy has been known about for around a year. It's been used in the Mediterranean. It's 18 metres long, so that's 7 metres longer than the dinghies, which are already very long, that are used in the English Channel to ferry migrants across the Channel. And normally, if you look at just last month, the average number of migrants per dinghy was 60. Well, this was carrying almost twice that number, 107 migrants across the Channel into UK waters and then brought to Dover Harbour. As you can see from the images of the boat, it was brought onto the quayside. It's been examined by Border Force and law enforcement officials to determine if this is the same design that has been used in the Mediterranean. Until last night, it had not made its way this far north, but the fact that it now has is deeply alarming for authorities. It may signal a new use of this longer, bigger boat with its ability to bring even more migrants across on each journey at a time, of course, when we are seeing already record numbers crossing the Channel, with more than 50,000 having crossed since Sir Keir Starmer came to power.
It is just the most astonishing thing to see, that number of people on just one vessel. And given that the government has been trying to clamp down on this, given that the government has seized at least one boat through the supply chain earlier this year, perhaps you would think that this would be something that wouldn't be happening. I mean, why are these boats getting bigger? Why are there seemingly more and more migrants?
Well, Well, the thing I think to bear in mind here is that the people smuggling supply chains are very robust, and they're not just one supply line. There are many supply lines that people smugglers use. These boats are made to order in backstreet factories in China, and they come in different sizes. I mean, when we started the small boat crisis back in 2016, I think 7 years ago or more, the boats that were used then were literally just little dinghies that carried no more than half a dozen people, and then they've gradually grown in size as the people smugglers have asked for bigger and bigger boats from these backstreet factories. Now it seems they are trying out that design as used in the Mediterranean of a longer vessel. The difficulty is, though, these longer vessels are more prone to being caught up in heavy swells. If you've got a shorter vessel, it can handle the waves that bit better. But if you've got heavy swells, it can buckle a boat, it can break the wooden flooring on the boat, which can then puncture the boat and obviously end up with migrants in the water. When you're talking about 107 on each boat, you're looking at a potential very significant loss of life there.
It's quite incredible. Mark White, thank you very much for bringing us that exclusive there. Well over 100 people just on one mega dinghy. Right, let's cross over to our French journalist, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, who's here for us to get a bit of a French perspective on this. I'm interested to know how important this issue is to President Macron. How much is this... what do the French public think about this issue? Because, of course, we're always criticising the French government and the authorities over there for not doing enough. So how does this play with the French at large?
First of all, it is an immensely difficult issue for Britain, and in France it's only part of the wider issue because Calais is the place where you can cross the channel. So all the migrants that want to go into Britain because the benefits are better, because the housing is better, because the way to get a job in the semi-dark economy is much easier, they all come to one point. But we've got all sorts of, we've got about 3,000 miles of borders, land borders, and about the equivalent of sea borders, and we have migrants that come from the Mediterranean, we have migrants that come over some of the mountains, mostly from Italy. So it is part of a wider problem for the French. It's not just this crisis, but we are perfectly aware of it.
And who do you think's winning in this deal, then, this one-in, one-out returns deal that has reaped no reward for the British side yet? Is that a win for Macron, or do you think the British have managed to actually negotiate something decent there? What do you reckon?
I don't think it's a win for Emmanuel Macron. I think it is something that was convenient for both governments to show that they had something. But the figures are ridiculous because we're talking, I think, 50 persons per week. And the numbers that were just explained during the program show very much that that's only one small part of the problem. It's certainly, I mean, it's a crisis for the French because those migrants get to Calais by crossing France, and some of them sort of scatter in France. Some of them stay in places that are nowhere as bad as the Calais jungle, but still very bad in various cities. We try and house many of them. It is a weight on social services. It's a weight on various places. You have migrant centres that have now been migrated to villages in the countryside with anger from the residents. So, or the attraction of Great Britain creates much more of a migrant crisis in France than there would be otherwise. So we take this seriously as well.
No, it is extraordinary. I've been looking at the data recently, and only for 2 of the last 10 years has France actually had enough accommodation for the asylum seekers within France's own borders. So you are more likely to see people in France in camps or in homeless shelters other than the dedicated asylum accommodation that is provided, unlike in this country where we sort of over-requisition hotels so that they have sort of a very much higher minimum standard of living. Perhaps we need to learn from the French on this one, although there are problems to both approach, no doubt. But I wanted to get your perspective on the increasing phenomenon of our politicians taking it upon themselves to patrol northern French beaches and have a look at these camps. Does that go down well in France? I mean, presumably they haven't asked permission of the French government to sort of do their own investigative work in terms of how the French are getting on managing this crisis.
I mean, I assume that they got into France legally, and therefore I don't think it's such a problem. I mean, I know that it would be a great scandal if some French MPs would come and not warn the embassy and the Foreign Office that they were coming. Although I assume that your MPs possibly have warned certainly the British Embassy and possibly the Ministère des Affaires étrangères in France. But otherwise, why should they not come? They are, they are engaged in the problem. We have this long agreement. It's been entered into in good faith, but it is something that's almost insuperable.
Sorry to interrupt, but what about the fact that we've just heard from our Shadow Home Secretary who went over to northern France and had a knife pulled out on him? This is the sort of violence and threat of violence that is in northern France currently, and the authorities don't seem to be very aware, potentially, of this. I don't know.
Believe me, I talk with the police from time to time, and they are perfectly aware of it. And it's not because he has not seen them at that very moment or on that very beach that they are not there. And the police unions are extremely vocal about this because they are put in impossible situations. But no, they are perfectly aware of that, and they're desperately trying to sort of find solutions, and they're hemmed in by all sorts of regulations that mean that, for instance, the National Assembly refused to lengthen the time in which illegal migrants could be kept in retention centres in order to examine their claims and try and find out who they were. It was 90 days. They wanted to push it to 240 days, and the National Assembly has refused it. No, not the National Assembly, sorry. The Constitutional Council has refused it. It's the equivalent of the Supreme Court in Great Britain. And so, believe me, the police is aware of it. They're angry about it. It puts them in danger, because do not believe that they will not pull machetes and knives against the French police.
It would just be so awful if a French politician came over here and had a machete drawn on them.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I do understand. I mean, how many police would it take to actually control this encampment? Some of these encampments, I think Chris Philp was just telling us, 2,000 people? I mean, how many police would you need to turn up there if they were actually going to arrest the people with knives, bladed articles and all the rest of it? Anne-Elizabeth Moutet, thanks so much for explaining what is going on the other side of the channel on this issue.
That is what prisons are for, Tom. That is what prisons are for. You go into the camps, you find the criminality, and then you bang the people up.
You need about 1,000.
Or deport them.
You need about 1,000 coppers to do it.
It's just crazy. Well, get on with it. Anyway, I don't particularly like the fact that our Shadow Home Secretary had a knife pulled on him.
No.
Anyway.
We should move on now, because under new guidance, police will be encouraged to disclose the ethnicity and nationality of subjects charged in high-profile and sensitive investigations.
Yes, the Policing Minister, Dame Diana Johnson, said the government wants police to release these details in most cases with an aim of reducing the risk to public safety.
Well, we're joined now by the former Police and Crime Commissioner, Festus Akin-Boursoye. Thanks so much for joining us, Festus. This is, I think a lot of people will say, it's about time that this data is revealed, that there's been too much sort of hiding of this data from the public up until now.
Look, I think this is long overdue. I'm broadly in support of it. And I don't quite buy the argument that, well, if you publish such information, it's going to give ammunition to racists. Well, I don't think we should not do things just because we're afraid of what some people might do with it, if it is in the public interest. I am all in favor of transparency and openness and accountability in policing, and I don't see any issues with this. And if we can publish all of the kind of demographic data around gender, around age, around even where crimes are committed, I don't see what the issue is with disclosing the ethnicity and nationalities of people who have been convicted of crimes.
Yeah, we've seen police authorities accused of covering up offences carried out by asylum seekers. I do think if the Home Office... I think the immigration status of suspects is probably most important, rather than necessarily the ethnicity.
I think the immigration status could be problematic because you don't always know where somebody might sit. In some cases, if they're within a period of renewing a visa, it could get very, very messy. But for me, I am broadly in favor of the police being transparent, being open about things. And in any case, it might end up not being the big issue that people think it is in the first place. I don't see what the big problem is here, to be honest with you.
And I suppose it could be useful to spot patterns. If there is a particular problem of criminality in a particular community, I think we've seen it with some particular nationalities more involved in ATM crime, some particular nationalities, as we saw with the grooming gang issue, mainly a Pakistani issue. If we don't have the data, sometimes we can't spot these patterns and get into the role of crime prevention.
This is absolutely right, because you want to target your resources in the very best way possible. And I understand the sensitivities around this, because nobody wants to feel like they're being targeted. Like I've said to you on your show before, I have been stopped and searched multiple times growing up in London. And I'm a huge fan and supporter of this. I want to see more of it being targeted, being used and deployed appropriately, because some crime statistics show that I am more likely to be a victim of a homicide, for example, than you as a white male, Tom. So, of course, I will want the police to want to do more to protect me. And I just think we need to remove the kind of sensitivity around these issues and just focus on the need to protect the public. And wherever the problem is coming from, let's do that.
I guess the difficulty is as well that the police, how do the police decide which is in the public interest and which cases aren't in terms of revealing this data? Does it have to be all or nothing? I don't know. But Festus, we'll have to leave it there. Festus Akinbosi, they really appreciate your time. Former police and crime commissioner there.
Well, the Home Office said that the public and police forces themselves want greater clarity on when, why and how information is released and the legitimate and compelling reasons it may need to be withheld.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up on today's show.
Promise.
8 decades ago, Jim Wren was enduring brutal conditions as a prisoner of war, captured by Japan 3 years earlier.
Well, as the anniversary of the Allies' victory over Japan nears, VEJ, GB News has spoken to a remarkable veteran who's been honoured with a royal visit from the Duchess of Edinburgh.
But after the break, stay tuned. The Treasury is now looking at ways to raise more money from inheritance tax. That's amid growing pressure on the country's finances ahead of the autumn budget. Would increasing death taxes be a good thing? That's after your news.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. Just after 12:30, the top story. A record 107 migrants have arrived in the UK on a single small boat in what officials say is a worrying new development in channel crossings. Authorities fear larger boats could allow people smugglers to send even bigger groups across the water. 3 children have been charged with murder of a man at a seaside resort. The 2 boys, aged 14 and 15, and a 16-year-old girl are accused of attacking 49-year-old Alexander Cashford during an altercation on the North Kent coast. Live facial recognition is expanding across England and Wales with 10 vans in 7 forces. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said they'll target people wanted for the most serious crimes. President Zelensky is joining European leaders ahead of Trump's summit with and other EU allies are pressing the United States to keep Ukraine fully involved. And Gaza City has been hit by intense airstrikes for the 3rd day as Israel prepares to seize the city. The United Nations and global leaders warn of famine, but the IDF says it's targeting Hamas. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more news at 1 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 36 minutes past 12. Now, get your kitty and make sure you lock it up. Make sure that you put heavy books on top of it, sit on it maybe, because the Chancellor's coming for it.
Yeah, cash under the bed. Are we there? Are we there?
Almost.
Well, yeah, Rachel Reeves is considering stricter rules on gifting money and assets to your family after you die, as it looks to boost inheritance tax revenue ahead of the autumn budget.
Well, the move comes amid mounting pressure to close a projected £50 billion gap in public finances.
Well, should we speak to the head of media at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Reem Ibrahim? Reem, what exactly is the Chancellor looking at here?
So the Chancellor is looking at restricting the rules around gifting. So at the moment, you're allowed to not be subject to inheritance tax if you give a gift over your lifetime within 7 years of your death, which is why it's absolutely correct to call inheritance tax the death tax. If you happen to gift somebody something, a certain amount of money, and you pass away within those 7 years, that is subject to inheritance tax. Now, there is a taper, so it's between those 3 to 8 years within that period of time. There is a bit of a taper, so it gets higher and higher the shorter amount of time after you've given that gift and you pass away. So, of course, this does end up meaning that there will be restrictions. What Rachel Reeves is looking at is creating a lifetime cap on the amount of money that you are allowed to gift another individual before your death. So this is incredibly difficult, because what it does mean is that 7-year taper, when you know you've got that period of time that you have that kind of protection from inheritance tax, that would be done away with, and you would have a lifetime cap. Now, of course, this would have huge, wide-reaching consequences. We know that inheritance tax is usually paid for by those middle earners, those people that, have earned a decent amount of money, that have had a shock death in their life, perhaps. If you are extremely wealthy, you are able to create so many complex schemes to avoid inheritance tax at the moment. Now, of course, this is going to try and restrict inheritance tax avoidance. Now, the question is, if you are a wealthy person in this country, why would you stay with rules like this? We are increasingly restricting the amount of money that you're allowed to gift other people. It is in your blood as a human being to want to give to the next generation of people, give to your children, to ensure that your family have a legacy. And anybody that has an ounce of ambition in this country is being driven out by these sky-high taxes.
Reem, what do you say to those who argue on a moral basis perhaps inheritance tax could be seen as the least immoral tax? You're not taking money from someone who's earned that money. You're preventing money being passed from one generation to the next. From an egalitarian point of view, a socialist might make an argument that people should start off from a more level playing field. Yes, you can earn as much money as you want during your life, but to pass it on perpetuates a sense of inequality.
I completely understand that perspective, but I think it's wrong. Fundamentally, the morality around what taxation looks like comes down to the very principle that that money has already been taxed. Inheritance tax is in so many ways a double tax. That money that has been earned would have been subject to capital gains tax or income tax or wherever those assets or that money was being held. It would have already been subject to that tax. And then upon that person's death, when you have funeral costs and so many other things to have to think about, the government are then going to go in upon your family member's deathbed and take almost half of that money that they have left to you. So I think it's disgusting, it's immoral, and even just down to the principle, right? All of this money that we now have wasted in this black hole, the government have to look at cutting public spending. There is no way out of this. Even if we increase taxes this year, we are going to have to perpetually increase taxes every single year to plug the gap unless we seriously rethink what the state should be doing and what it shouldn't be doing.
It's very interesting, isn't it, the sort of moral argument made by the left on this one? The idea that it's somehow more moral to give your money over to the state and then to your own family, then to your own children, then to your own grandchildren. There must be some perverse incentives there.
Oh, completely. I mean, the argument is that, well, if everybody should be on a level playing field, the government is better at spending your money for you, which is just fundamentally untrue. Look at how much money the government wastes on a daily basis. The fact of the matter is, public spending as a proportion of GDP is about 44%. It's increasing every single day. We cannot afford current levels of public spending. So I completely understand the position that Rachel Reeves is in.
Yeah.
There has to be a way that they plug that gap, and the way that you do that is cutting public spending, not squeezing more and more from hardworking families across the country. Because the real question is, you know, I love this country. We all love this country. We all love Britain. I cannot bear to see Britain in decline. And the more we take from hardworking people, the more we disincentivize those people from leaving any money for their family members, then of course we are going to then see more of those people leave. There's also the other aspect of this. So inheritance tax is one part of what Rachel Reeves is looking at. She's also looking at changing the thresholds with capital gains tax. Now that would be disastrous. I mean, most economists would argue that capital gains tax is one of the most damaging to economic behaviour, because of course it restricts the amount of money that you're able to invest. Now, if we want this country to be successful, if we want this country to flourish, for there to be more jobs and more opportunities, then we have to ensure that we look at the tax system.
It's all about those incentives, isn't it? If you're told you can't pass on things to your children, well, why don't you stop earning earlier? Why don't you retire early? You produce less, you're less productive, there's less money. Same with capital gains tax. But then again, that gets into the hard-nosed economics of it rather than the emotional, moral arguments that are so often made. Reem Ibrahim, thanks so much for joining us and talking through this exploration here of the Chancellor.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts at home, gbnews.com/your say. Inheritance tax every year doesn't impact that many people, that many families. That's usually an argument put by the left, isn't it, to say that this is a fantastic tax to hike. But let us know your thoughts on that one. But it is time for the Great British Giveaway now, and we've got something brilliant to share with you. Yes, Jane from Manchester became our biggest cash winner to date yesterday, and here's the moment we called her to give the wonderful news.
Jane, are you sitting down?
No, I don't. I'm not believing this.
Jane, you've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. This would change my life.
Jane, you have won £54,321 with GB News. Congratulations.
Oh, my God. Oh, my, do you know what? I've just been shopping and I've got £50 to last me till the 31st of August. And I was trying to work things out.
Go and sit down, have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. That money is coming to you, all right?
Oh, my God, thank you so much.
Oh, my goodness, I got a tear in my eye. She had 50 quid to last her till the 31st, and then, to get that news.
Yeah.
That's life-changing, that is.
From 50 quid
Stress
to
gone, eh?
54,000 quid, not a bad jump.
Oh, feeling a bit emotional now. We've got...
Well, yeah, it's got to be an emotional call for anyone to receive. And we just want to congratulate Jane again. Huge congratulations on winning that well-deserved money. We hope you enjoy it. But
Don't spend it all at once, though. Don't go crazy.
But now your chance to be our next Jane, our next winner, with your own mortgage or rent paid for a year, plus 5,000 quid in tax-free cash. Here are the details.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, a very good luck to you. You're watching GB News. Good afternoon, Britain. There's so much more coming up on today's programme.
To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
Smash the gangs.
Smash the gangs.
Yeah, are we smashing the gangs? Well, new data shows the number of people smugglers arrested has actually fallen since Labour came to power. You couldn't make it up.
Smash the gangs?
Not smashing the gangs, are we, Tom?
Well, at the same time, more and more crossings, 50% rise since before the agreement with France. But after the break, England entered its fourth heatwave of the summer. It's just summer. Well, a number of places have seen high temperatures, higher than 30 degrees, because it's summer.
It's hot.
It's
very
summer.
hot. It's notably hot.
Summer.
It's notably hot.
But for now, if you're in search of some
sun.
even more sunshine, or maybe even a bit less sunshine, here's the weather in Europe.
Oh, what you want about?
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across some southern parts of Europe tomorrow, there will be some showery rain, which could turn heavy and perhaps even thundery. But a big talking point is still the exceptional heat affecting parts of Portugal, Spain and France. Yesterday, temperatures were in the low to mid-40s in some places. The heat's going to ease a little, but it's going to return again as we go towards the weekend. Further east, some heavy showery rain, like I mentioned, could be a bit thundery at times, particularly across parts of Italy. Elsewhere, it's looking fine and sunny for many through the outlook.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot, but we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also, a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this is less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night, temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A82 at Corran is restricted due to a collision. Drivers should exercise caution. Structural inspections on the M4 eastbound between junctions 46 and 45 have led to a closure with diversions. In Shropshire, the M54 eastbound between junction 4 and junction 3 experiences delays from a collision and lane closures, extending travel times by 20 minutes. The M20 eastbound in Kent has lane closures from a broken down vehicle between junction 8 and 9. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces disruption between Manchester Piccadilly and Wilmslow. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Looking forward to seeing that TV duo back.
Oh, yeah. No, classic telly there.
Eamon Holmes, Penny Smith, it should be good.
Yeah, good
Tune in for
afternoon,
breakfast.
Britain. It's just gone 10
Oh, he's
to
had
1.
enough of that conversation, has he? Yes,
I
good
just
afternoon,
thought I'd
Britain,
turn
yeah.
on the time, otherwise we can't move on unless we know the time.
12:52, yeah.
How else would we know where we are, what we're doing?
Well, we're in the studio, and this is Good Afternoon Britain, it is, and it's very hot outside, the 4th heatwave of the year.
Yeah, it's the 4th heatwave of the year. It's hot. John Ketley is a meteorologist, and he joins us now. And John, I've got one very simple question to ask you. Why is it notable if it's hot in August? Isn't this what August is supposed to be?
Yeah, because our British summers are very mixed. Sometimes we have very good Junes, very ordinary Julys, very good Augusts. It can fluctuate from year to year. 'Twas ever thus, really. And we are expecting some hot weather at different times of any summer. But, of course, we've seen from experience over my lifetime, your lifetime, that not all summers are very good. And even if we go back to 2003, 2006, we had some superbly hot weather then. Obviously, in between times, the rains started and they never seem to stop. And we've had some very wet summers since then. So the problem is with the UK, it can never be guaranteed. It's perfectly forecastable, but it isn't necessarily what you want to see.
Yeah, Tom, you're not a very good Englishman, are you? We have to comment on the weather, John.
Oh, no, this is true. It's a national pastime.
It is indeed, but it's nice to see the sun shining. There's a bit of a role reversal today, though, because the hotter weather is actually spread further north. So it's much more cloudy down across southern England today, and there's some rain coming in across the southeast. Whereas further north, we've got these temperatures high up at, well, 29 to 34 degrees, I would think, from the North Midlands northwards. And you're looking into 30 degrees up in Scotland today. So it's a big change. Already 1 or 2 storms today across the north of Scotland in the Grampians. And we will find more downpours developing from the southeast up through eastern England and into Scotland, Northern Ireland possibly as well as we go through the
30 degrees in Scotland.
Tomorrow.
Oh, well, lucky. Well, it's good to see that the North is getting its own fair share of the Great British Summer. John Ketley, thanks so much for explaining that all for us today. Really appreciate your time. Thanks. Now, this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on the show, but we thought we just haven't had enough weather yet. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about the weather up and down the country, here's some more weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot, but we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said, though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still, though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also, a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this is less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night, temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
OK, at 7:32, tributes are flooding in for the Apollo 13 commander, Jim Lovell, who has died aged 97.
97, wow. He guided the failed space mission back to Earth after that attempt to land on the moon was aborted following an oxygen tank explosion.
Tom Hanks, the movie star who played him, honoured the legendary astronaut in an emotional tribute, calling him a true visionary. I think they really got to know each other well during the making of that movie. That's 30 years after he played Lovell in the 1995 film Apollo 13.
And the Apollo 13 movie was very accurate because Lovell was working on the Apollo 13 movie to ensure there was accuracy. There was a few bits of movie license to make it a little bit more dramatic here and there, but it was a very accurate depiction, and it showed Lovell in the wonderful light of who he was.
And they gave him a little cameo at the end, didn't they? He actually played a part. He played the commander of the ship, the naval ship that picked up the astronauts.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realise that. He was actually in the Apollo 13 movie. And Tom Hanks and Lovell spent a lot of time together so that Tom could act the role in as accurate a way as possible. He picked up a lot of his mannerisms to make sure it was accurate. But it must have been wonderful for Jim to actually be on the movie itself. We're just sort of scratching the surface of our spacefaring nature. We've been to the moon, although there's been a bit of a hiatus of going to the moon, but we've got the Artemis projects coming up in the next sort of 5-10 years, where we hope to get people back on the moon again. And let's not forget, this is all relatively new technology.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 13th of August. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
Smash the gangs, that's the pledge, that's the big pledge. But new data shows the number of people smugglers actually arrested has fallen since Labour came to power. At the same time, there's been a 50% surge in crossings since that one-in, one-out migrant deal with France was announced, including one so-called mega dinghy carrying 107 migrants landing today.
Well, this migrant dinghy, 18 metres long, 8 metres longer than the current vessels that ply the channel came in last night. It may herald the advent of new, larger boats in the English Channel.
And we'll have more on that shocking breaking news. Whilst on a finding facts mission in northern France, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says he was attacked with bottles and had a knife pulled on him.
Chris Philp tells GB News he's attacked with a curved machete and pelted with bottles. We have exclusive footage to show you.
Meanwhile, police have been told to share suspects' ethnicity and nationality information with the public after authorities were accused of covering up offences carried out by asylum seekers. But is this the right approach?
More live facial recognition vans will be rolled out across the UK, across 7 police forces in England, to locate suspects for crimes including sexual offences, violent assaults and murders. But will the use of these vans treat us all as a nation of suspects?
And yes, it is a big day tomorrow. It's A-level results day, an anxious time for hundreds of thousands of young people across the country. But is going to university actually worth it these days?
Learner drivers are to be quizzed on their CPR skills in an update to the theory test. But would you pass the test today?
Well, there's a huge amount relating to crime and punishment, really, isn't there? Home affairs, security, domestic security, international security, all sorts.
It really does feel like this is a sort of crime-focused summer, whether it's the crossings across the border, across the Channel, whether it's the crime spree in pharmacies, in shops, shoplifting, whether it's facial recognition being rolled out and alleged crimes in and around migrant hotels.
Not sure about this facial recognition. I do think that perhaps it treats us all like potential suspects. But then, with crime as it is, perhaps that's just the way we have to do it these days.
Look, there's so much CCTV anywhere. I think
Yeah.
we're per person, we must be one of the most CCTV'd countries
Everyone's
in the
got
world.
Ring doorbells anyway, haven't they?
That's also true. But I saw one of these vans, actually, last week outside Oxford Circus Station in London.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, looking around, you know, there's all the ULEZ cameras, there's all the cameras tracking everything, and I just thought, you know, if this helps the police catch some people that are going to be going in and out of the station, if it can see the people who are breaking through the barriers, who are doing the low-level crime, if it can track their faces and get the repeat people and be able to track down where these nuisance individuals are, is this the biggest breach of our liberty? Maybe.
What about your libertarian instincts? Where have they gone, Tom? Law-abiding citizens being caught on camera, potential suspects, your secrets could be out. In the open, when you haven't even done anything.
I don't think it's a change, really. I mean, there's cameras on us all the time anyway.
Yeah, but isn't that a bit much as well? I don't know. Is it more a bit Big Brother these days? It does feel as though our liberties are being taken away as law-abiding citizens because we've got so much riffraff committing crime left, right and centre.
That's true.
Scumbags, which you are allowed to call criminals.
You're allowed to call criminals scumbags, although one shop owner was told off for doing just that. Well, do get your views in at gbnews.com/your say, all to come after your latest news headlines. Hello, a very good afternoon to you. Just after 1 o'clock, the top story this lunchtime. A record 107 migrants have arrived in the UK on a single small boat in what officials say is a worrying new development in the Channel crossings crisis. The vessel, a longer design than the inflatable rafts normally used, was recovered and taken to Dover for examination by Border Force. Authorities fear the larger boats could allow people smugglers to send even bigger groups across. Today alone, around 200 arrivals have so far been recorded. Meanwhile, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has said he was threatened with a machete while visiting an illegal migrant camp in Calais earlier. Mr Philp was in France to observe small boat activity along the coast. It comes after Labour introduced a one-in, one-out returns deal with France, but those crossings continue. So far this year, almost 27,200 migrants have crossed the Channel. That is up 47% on the same point last year.
Here, live facial recognition is being rolled out across England and Wales, all as part of a major overhaul on neighbourhood policing. 10 camera-equipped vans will be deployed in 7 police force areas to target sex offenders and suspects wanted for the most serious crimes. The Home Office says the algorithm has been independently tested and will be used only in specific circumstances with robust oversight. Privacy campaigners have raised some concerns, but police chiefs insist the technology is used ethically and has already helped to locate thousands of offenders. Well, that comes as police forces are also being encouraged today to name the ethnicity and nationality of suspects in high-profile or sensitive investigations to counter misinformation. It's under immediate changes being rolled out from the National Police Chiefs Council. The move, backed by ministers, follows incidents where a lack of detail fuelled false rumours, including the Southport murders that preceded riots. Details will still be released at the discretion of individual forces with legal and ethical factors in mind. Immigration status checks will also remain the Home Office's responsibility. Critics, though, warn it could create unrealistic expectations for disclosure in every case. But the Policing Minister, Dame Deanna Johnson, says the guidance will bring greater transparency and more public confidence.
I would really welcome the openness and transparency of giving that information about ethnicity and nationality at the point of charge. We will give names and addresses often at that point, but in these high-profile cases, it's absolutely right that that transparency is there and that the information is provided. In terms of asylum seekers and the status of any claim they're making, that in future, in cases, that will be looked at and that information could be made available. We're working through now how that would actually work.
In other news, a 16-year-old girl and 2 boys, one aged 14, the other 15, have been charged with the murder of 49-year-old Alexander Cashford in Laysdown-on-Sea. Police were called to the scene shortly after 7 o'clock on Sunday evening following a disturbance involving a number of people. Mr Cashford was found with multiple injuries and died at the scene. The 3 teenagers, all from London, were arrested soon afterwards and will appear at Medway Magistrates Court today. A 12-year-old girl arrested in Basildon on Tuesday remains in custody. The government has dropped proposals to use a former retail site in Hampshire Town Centre, to house migrants, ruling it unsuitable after more than 1,000 people joined a protest last week. The former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, who called the site utterly inappropriate, is due to address campaigners tonight. It will be the first time an MP has spoken at one of those protests over asylum accommodation. Meanwhile, in Essex, Epping Forest District Council is seeking a High Court injunction to block the Bell Hotel from housing asylum seekers, warning that it risks further escalating community tensions after months of demonstrations. And just an hour before joining a virtual meeting with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky and European leaders, Donald Trump is defending his planned summit with Vladimir Putin. Posting on Truth Social, he's criticised journalists for claiming Putin has already won and insisted we are winning on everything, adding the fake news is working overtime. Well, Zelensky has now arrived in Berlin for today's video call with those leaders, including the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, who are expected to stress that no decision should be taken without Ukraine's consent. Moscow has repeated its peace terms, demands that Kyiv and European leaders say are unacceptable. Trump, though, has previously suggested some swapping of territories could be part of the deal, comments that have drawn some concern in both Ukraine and across Europe. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in around half an hour's time. Now, though, let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's the markets for you this lunchtime. The pound will buy you $1.3560 and €1.1572. The price of gold is £2,478 and 87 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,166 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past 1. Now, the Shadow Home Secretary has been in Calais today, out finding facts on his own fact-finding mission. But whilst doing so, he says he's had a knife pulled on him.
Yeah, a curved machete. Early on the show, we spoke with him very shortly after the incident. Let's take a listen.
And first of all, as I was talking to some migrants, another one pulled out a curved machete and started brandishing it, at which point we left pretty quickly. And then as we were leaving, we got pelted with glass bottles. And as we drove off, other like bottles got thrown at the car. So it was a pretty nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah, sure sounds nerve-wracking. Well, let's speak now to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, this is well, I hear you've got some video to show us.
That's right. So Chris Philp has been, within the past hour, in a migrant camp in northern France. He came straight to our channel a quarter of an hour after being, well, threatened with a curved machete. He was also pelted as he left that camp by bottles. I think we've got a clip now to show you what happened.
Quite clearly, they're planning to cross the channel illegally. And I said to him, that's illegal. And he said, I don't care. I mean, he was completely up. Well, right, okay, let's go. We've got to go. I mean, he was completely up. Well, right.
So there you have it, Chris Philp saying he's been pelted there as he left that camp. Now, you might wonder, why is Chris Philp in northern France? Of course, we've had presenters for GB News going there and bravely exposing what's happening there and talking to migrants before they make the crossing. You now got politicians doing that. It does seem to have an effect, this kind of citizen journalism from senior politicians. Robert Jenrick does something similar with the issues of alleged fare dodging on the London Underground network. That led to an increase in people being lifted for alleged fare dodging afterwards. So let's see what the government's response is. We've gone to the Home Office. Let's see what they say. But, I mean, he's saying there he's being threatened by a curved machete. That's not a knife you use to cut fruit or vegetables. That's a weapon. And if that's in the camp, what else is there? And that is really worrying.
Well, I'm glad he's safe, and his team are safe, of course. But I mean, it's just a reminder of some of the people who are coming across into this country.
That's
people
why
are happy to
say
carry weapons.
There's a national security element to this. We don't know who is coming across. It passed 50,000 since the election last year. We're looking at 50,000 this year. We'll be hearing from Mark White about these super dinghies now being used to get more and more people into this country. What is the government doing about it? The Times today has gone through all the different measures to smash the gangs, giving them marks out of 5 for each one. They got 3 out of 30 in the Times newspaper today. That is a very bad record for this government. But we spoke earlier to Robert Jenrick. He's been talking to other people about the small boats issues, notably, apparently, JD Vance. Now, sources close to Mr. Philp tell me that the issue of how the US secured its southern border was raised in talks yesterday between Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, and the Deputy President of the United States, the Vice President, JD Vance. So clearly...
So Chris Philp was one of those people who met with JD Vance yesterday, although that hasn't been published.
I can confirm that he did meet yesterday, and it was raised. So clearly, at the top level of the Tory party, they are reaching out to say, on how on earth did you succeed so well to Donald Trump? We have some footage, actually, also, of what it's like to be in the Cotswolds right now, near JD Vance. Can we play it now? It's this enormous motorcade.
It's coming. It's coming. There it is.
And there we have it there. So it's the scale of the disruption. I think that's Chipping Norton, of course, famously, where David Cameron has a home near there. But look at the scale of this. I mean, this is not any small number of vehicles. It is, for those who can't see on the radio, I think it's a dozen or more of these black vehicles, some of them containing, you'd imagine, JD Vance and his family, others maybe some police protection. But he doesn't travel lightly, compared to maybe the King, who has a couple of vehicles.
One of those vans had a roof box.
Well,
just say, why do they need even more? I mean, of the dozens of cars and police vehicles and vans and the rest of it, why on earth did that one need a roof box?
It's quite... it's...
Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's his camping gear, I don't think. I mean, clearly, that was filmed by the Oxford Mail, by a journalist. I mean, for those who couldn't see it, that took about 20 seconds, that line of vehicles to go past.
Well, it just kept on going. As soon as you thought it was over, oh, no, there's another one.
I mean, they're in the picture-perfect village of Chipping Norton.
Yes, They've never seen anything like it.
Around the Cotswolds, at that very fancy farm shop, isn't it? Dalesford.
But the politics is that JD Vance is seeing senior politicians. He didn't see Kevin Badenoch. She was with GB News yesterday on the Isle of Wight on a trip planned 2 weeks before, so let's give her that due. And also, she does know JD Vance very well. But JD Vance is offering his advice on border security, and the following day we have the Shadow Home Secretary being pelted with bottles in northern France and having a weapon pulled on him.
Well, hopefully all of this is going to shame the government and authorities into taking more action on this issue. That would be nice. We're going to speak to Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, on this because he's got some news about the size of the dinghies that are now coming over. Mega dinghies, Mark.
Yeah, this has been described to me by senior maritime sources as an extremely worrying development. It seems that people smugglers here and across in France are now trying out these larger migrant boats. One came in last night in the early hours with 107 migrants on board. Now, this mega dinghy, as it's been described, is some 18 metres long, which is 7 metres longer than the inflatable rafts that they normally use in the English Channel, which at 12 metres or so long are already very long boats. So you can see the size of these dinghies. They can cram an awful lot of people on board. If that's 107 last night, they can actually take a good deal more than that, given the length of these vessels. And they have been seen and noticed in the Mediterranean for about a year now, but officials had not seen them here off the northern coast of France and being used in the English Channel until last night. And as I say, the real concern is now that the people smugglers have got a hold of these as part of a supply line, and they're going to start pushing out these bigger inflatable boats now with more migrants on board to make that journey across from France. I mean, you know, the issue, of course, with a boat that is as long as that as well is that they're a lot less safe in choppy conditions. When you've got swells in the English Channel, when you've got something as long as that, they can buckle, and effectively the wooden floors on these boats can then crack and puncture the boats themselves. And clearly with upwards of 100 or more on board, anything like that in the middle of the channel would be a very significant maritime disaster unfolding.
Mark, interested to get your thoughts too on, well, it was the Independent's front page actually this morning, about the number of arrests of people smugglers actually falling since Labour came to power.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, you can't argue with the statistic. However, when you drill down into the figures, what the National Crime Agency would say, and indeed are saying, is that, you know, the number, the totality of arrests may be down, but the quality of arrests is up. In other words, they are arresting more high-profile, better-connected individuals and making, they would argue, a more significant impact on the people smuggling trade. They claim that over the past year, 435 smuggling operations have been impacted by their law enforcement activity. And they also say that arrests made by Border Force and by law enforcement, both in this country and abroad, are not obviously included in the National Crime Agency figures. So while they do acknowledge that their arrest tally is down, they're not willing to accept that that signals that they're not doing as much in terms of their law enforcement efforts. They say they've been making more efforts to help dismantle the gangs over the past year than they have done in any year since this crisis has been underway. However, as we've said on this channel many times before, the people smugglers, their supply lines, their operations are international in scope. They are very well embedded, and whatever law enforcement activity the National Crime Agency and others are involved in, it's a tough ask to try to really dismantle these gangs.
Well, Mark White, thanks for being there at the front of the scene for us and bringing us that information there down in Dover. We're going to hop along the coast now and go to Bournemouth, because that's another place that has really seen the brunt of this migrant crisis. Let's speak to business owner and military veteran in Bournemouth, Adam Elcock. Adam, just tell us what's going on in your part of the world.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think Bournemouth is just steadily, well, actually not steadily, rapidly declining. The services are at absolute breaking point. Crime is through the roof. We've now got community schemes patrolling the streets, trying to keep people safe. People are worried about going out. Sexual assaults are through the roof. Crime, petty crime in town. There was one this morning, someone with a knife in the sports store in Bournemouth ran out having stolen a load of trainers. I've said it before, it is like the Wild West.
And Adam, do you link this to the migration crisis? Because hearing that not one, not two, but three quite historic hotels are now being occupied by the Home Office for asylum seekers.
Look, I think you'd be ignorant to say that it is all related to that. But there is a clear correlation when you look at the arrival dates, you look at the crime statistic, the figures, the arrest rates in these hotels, and also when you just walk around town, you speak to the police, you speak to the shop owners, and you ask them where the perpetrators are from, then you can obviously draw that conclusion that the hotels are a problem.
I mean, this does seem like it is happening across the country. Whenever you plonk in a few hundred undocumented men, there does seem to be this correlation that we keep seeing of criminal activity. I mean, at what point do we decide as a country that maybe it's not the best thing to plonk in hundreds of people from very different values systems and cultures and countries that have experienced a lot more violence, that have different attitudes towards bladed articles and everything else than perhaps people who've grown up in more gentle parts of the world have experienced?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally true, isn't it? I don't know, it's mind-boggling who comes up with the policies. I mean, OK, people come to this country, we have to accept that. But what we can do is we can cordon where these people go. We can put them in an area so they can be properly vetted. They can be put on curfews, they can be put on tags and trackers so that we understand that they're released into society once we know they're safe. And when they do get housed in these areas, let's just do a risk assessment and look at it and say, well, is it near a school? Is it near a shopping centre? Is it near vulnerable people? No one's done that yet. Anyone else that has to open a business anywhere with the council, you have to go through all number of loops and have DBS checks. But yet you're an undocumented person from a questionable country, then you're just allowed to be put next to a school, like is the case at the Roundhouse in Bournemouth. And there's been some very serious incidents as a result of that.
OK, well, Adam, thank you very much indeed. Adam Elcock there, a Bournemouth business owner and military veteran. Just in case any specific cases were mentioned there, we kind of verify the details of those, just to say.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming on today's programme.
Yes, learner drivers are to be quizzed on their CPR skills now in an update to the theory test. But would you pass the test today? We'll put to you some of the questions.
But after the break, police have been told to share suspects' ethnicity and nationality with the public after authorities were accused of covering up offences carried out by asylum seekers. Is this the right approach?
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past 1. Now, under new guidance, police will be encouraged to disclose the ethnicity and nationality of suspects charged in high-profile and sensitive investigations.
Yes, the policing minister, Dame Diana Johnson, said the government wants police to release these details in most cases with the aim of reducing the risk to public safety.
Well, it all comes as the government have rolled out vans equipped with facial recognition cameras across Britain to catch criminals.
Well, joining us now is retired Scotland Yard Detective Inspector Hamish Brown. I mean, what do you make of this, the suggestion that police should reveal more details at the point of charging a suspect?
Well, I think this is common sense coming into force, really. We've seen problems in the past, certainly, and I'm thinking of Southport, and where you have highly charged situations, as that was, rumour control is out of control, all sorts of things come up, and it just spiralled and spiralled. So it is important that information is put out. Now, I'll touch upon this case. I'll make reference, but I won't go into it. It's well reported, a car and a crowd in Liverpool a couple of months ago. That's currently before the Crown Court, so I'll say no more about that, except for the police did reveal it was a local man, and that would have quelled the possible public disorder. So I think those are examples there, one where they didn't and there were problems, and one where they did and there weren't problems. So it is common sense, but ultimately it must be for the police to decide in all the circumstances, is this a proper thing to do?
I think one of the most important things for a lot of people is the immigration status, considering the issues we have with our border at the moment. Now, that is something I understand that has to come from the Home Office itself rather than the police authorities. It's the Home Office that have the information on that.
Well, absolutely. Immigration matters must rest with the Home Office. They're the ultimate source there. But public order, people's safety and dealing with crime, that must rest with the police, and they must not be interfered with any outside agency. That includes the Home Office, nor, say, the government.
Now, of course, this all comes on a day that the government is also trialling a big rollout of facial recognition cameras in many police areas across the country. What are your thoughts on this tool? I mean, we've seen CCTV, of course, for a long, long time, but the facial recognition element of it is something new to these isles.
It's relatively new. It's been going a little bit some time. It's been trialled. There are, as I understand, safeguards. I think it started in London, in Croydon, where there's some excellent results. And what you're looking at, or the police are looking at, is predominantly people who cause high harm. Not to investigate the crime, but they're already circulated as wanted. And I think at this moment in time, can we just remember an important part here, and that is the role of victims, and sometimes they get forgotten about the criminal justice system. Victims might be waiting trial, they're waiting for their perpetrator to be arrested, and they're on hold, maybe for a long time. And how annoying is it that someone wanted in one part of the country walks past a load of police in another part of the country, and they're just not recognised.
Hamish, I take your point, but is there a risk here that law-abiding people will have their faces scanned, and the people who the police are after will wear motorcycle helmets, balaclavas, fake COVID masks or burqas and get out of it?
Well, that's right. And in certain public order situations, the police can demand, and it's a criminal offence not to comply with this, to remove facial gear.
Even one that's supposedly for religious purposes?
Well, there's still allowances for it, but the vast majority we're going to deal with. That's the way the police will interpret the situation. You're sometimes on a tinderbox here, particularly with public order matters, as we have seen go right and wrong. So it's a careful move by the police, certainly. But I think this facial recognition, it screams this must be a good idea if someone's wanted for a serious crime. And we're talking about domestic violence, we're talking about robberies, sexual offences, other rapes and things like that. And if the people are wanted, this is not an investigatory tool, it's people who are already wanted. They are identified and taken off the streets.
OK, well, Hamish Brown, thank you very much indeed. Retired Scotland Yard Detective Inspector. Thank you for your time. Tommy, there's a surprising number of young men who wear balaclavas and very warm-looking hoodies on hot days.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Also people that I wouldn't have thought are the most germophobic in the country, who wear COVID masks years after the pandemic, touching them with their... not wearing them because they're concerned with disease, I speculate, but because they want to hide their faces. Really, really strange behaviour, but you see it all the time in urban areas.
Yeah, not a normal thing to wear on 30 degrees, is it?
No.
Anyway, the Home Office has said the public and police forces themselves want greater clarity on when, why and how information is released and the legitimate and compelling reasons it may need to be withheld.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come on today's programme. Indeed, learner drivers are to be quizzed on their CPR skills in an update to the theory test. But would you pass the test today?
But after the break, thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes as deadly wildfires continue to burn across southern Europe amid a record-breaking heatwave. These pictures are coming to us from the Spanish town of Mideast. All of that and more after your latest news.
Very good afternoon to you. 1:30, the top stories this lunchtime. A record 107 migrants have arrived here in the UK on just a single small boat in what officials say is a worrying new development in the Channel crossings crisis. Authorities fear the larger boats could allow people smugglers to send even bigger groups across the water. 3 children have been charged with the murder of a man at a seaside resort. The 2 boys, aged 14 and 15, and a 16-year-old girl are accused of attacking a 49-year-old during an altercation on the North Kent coast. Live facial recognition is expanding across England and Wales with 10 vans in 7 forces. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says they'll target people who are wanted for the most serious crimes. President Zelensky is joining European leaders ahead of the Trump summit with Putin in Alaska on Friday. He's warning any deal without Ukraine would be dead decisions. Germany, the UK and other allies are pressing the United States to keep Ukraine fully involved. And Gaza City has been hit by intense airstrikes as Israel prepares to seize the city. The United Nations and global leaders warn of famine. The IDF says that it's targeting Hamas, but critics call it an unfolding genocide. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you for the news at 2.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot. But we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night, temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A87 at Shield Bridge is shut in both directions due to a crash. In Shropshire, the M54 eastbound has one lane closed between junctions 4 and 3 due to a collision, expecting normal traffic by 4:13 this afternoon. The M4 eastbound from junction 46 Llangefallach to 45 Innisforgan is closed for inspections, with diversions in place. The A38 westbound has one lane closed due to an incident. In Hertfordshire, a vehicle fire closes all lanes on the A1M northbound entry slip at junction 7. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruptions between Manchester Piccadilly and Wilmslow. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Now we're taking you live to Iberia. This is this is a picture of Eliste in Spain, where we can see these wildfires spreading. Thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes. These deadly wildfires continue to burn across southern Europe amid this particular heatwave.
Yeah, so this is Spain, but there's also been wildfires in Portugal. There's also wildfires in Greece, on the islands as well. As Tom says, thousands of people are being forced to evacuate. A common occurrence, really, in the summer months. But let's hope the authorities get get those flames under control because with the dryness of the land and the terrain, these things can spread massively and very quickly.
Certainly can. Well, we'll keep an eye on that for you. But, of course, much more to come here on Good Afternoon Britain. Some breaking news that came into us today. Well, the Shadow Home Secretary was forced, was in northern France on his own fact-finding mission. And while he was doing so, he had a knife pulled on him.
Yes, earlier on in the show, we spoke to him very shortly, 15 minutes after the incident. Let's take a listen.
First of all, as I was talking to some migrants, another one pulled out a curved machete and started brandishing it, at which point we left pretty quickly. And then as we were leaving, we got pelted with glass bottles. And as we drove off, other like bottles got thrown at the car. So it was a pretty nerve-wracking experience.
Well, we're joined now by the Labour councillor for Waltham Forest Council, Sebastian Salek, to speak on this one. Sebastian, thanks for joining us. So we spoke to Chris Philp a little earlier, Conservative Shadow Home Secretary. It sounds pretty scary, what he experienced over there, a man pulling a knife on him and then being pelted by bottles in Calais. Clearly, the Conservatives, Robert Jenrick's also headed over there as well to shine a light on this issue. They're trying to shame the government into more action, aren't they?
Well, do you know what? This is one of those things that puts my sanity through the ringer because it's gimmicks, gimmicks, gimmicks. It's once again a party that cares more about optics than it does making any kind of meaningful change. We saw that when they were in government as well, spending £700 million of taxpayers' money on Rwanda, the scheme that we all knew was never going to work, and they just wanted to look like the tough guys. And it's the same now, clearly, when they're in opposition. So you could quite reasonably look at these videos and think you've got no credibility left. What did you do about this issue for the decade that it was an issue while you were in government? Barely made a dent in it, and now we see him roaming the beaches of northern France at 3 a.m, the empty beaches, I should say. He didn't find much over there, complaining about an issue that he failed to tackle.
Well, I think it's part of the issue is that there weren't any police patrols to be found, police patrols that British taxpayers are paying for. Is it not legitimate of politicians to go to areas, especially when it involves taxpayers' money, to see if actually what is being said and legislated for is happening on the ground? A lot of the time, a big criticism of what happens in British politics is some legislator or bureaucrat in some building in Whitehall pulls a lever expecting something to happen, but doesn't actually know if at the end of the chain of that sequence of events, something is actually done. Surely politicians have a right to go and find that stuff out.
Well, it's a bit weak for Philp to stand on a random stretch of beach, a very long shoreline, as we know, and claim that there are no police officers at that specific point at that specific time. And again, it plays to the lack of credibility that the Tories have got at the moment. That is clearly something that is reflected nationwide. We see it in the polls. Of course, politicians should get out there and see what's going on. But going to an asylum seeker camp in another country and poking cameras in their face is frankly not the way to go about it.
It's important, is it not, to find out why people are so desperate to leave the safe country of France to cross the one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world and make it to the United Kingdom? I mean, those are the sort of questions Philp was asking some of those asylum seekers. You know, they'd heard about the hotels, they'd heard about all the benefits that they could get coming to the United Kingdom. Surely that's an important point to understand.
But let's call this what it is. This isn't politics, this is journalism, and it's not the job of a man who wants to be Home Secretary to go and have those conversations. He's got a team around him, he's got people at his disposal who can go and do that research. The Shadow Home Secretary should be focused on holding the government of the day to account, which frankly they're not doing very well either, and far be it from
Sebastian,
me to
that's exactly what he's trying to do, though, isn't he?
He's trying to
say, look what's going on in Calais. The government is saying they're smashing the gangs, but there are huge numbers of people here in these camps that are desperate to come to the United Kingdom, and the numbers keep rising. He's trying to hold the government to account by showing this, is he not, Sebastian?
Well, what has he told us today that we don't already know? I don't think Philp has uncovered anything groundbreaking. The government is getting on with its agenda around this issue. It's trying to fix the problem. And Philp is, frankly, playing for clicks. He's trying to...
Well, to be honest, I think most people would be quite interested to know that the Shadow Home Secretary had a knife pulled on him in Calais by potentially someone who's going to be on a boat over to this country. I think that is in the public interest to know. Sebastian, I do appreciate your opinion on this. Sebastian Salek, Labour councillor for Waltham Forest Council there. Yes, I mean, you can say it's a bit gimmicky and, you know, journalists are already doing this job, but I don't particularly have anything against politicians going and, you know, trying to seek the truth.
In the United States of America, politicians go down to the border with Mexico to see the state of what defences there are, to get a sense of what's going on. You can almost pick any issue. Why does Keir Starmer need to go to JLR factory to see cars being produced? He knows cars are being produced. Why does he physically need to go? Can't he just sit in Downing Street and be told what's going on in the factories up and down this country? No, of course he wants to go to the factory. Of course he wants to speak to the people working there. Why is it any different?
And why has Keir Starmer not gone down to the migrant camps? Presumably because it's too dangerous. I don't know. Let us know your thoughts, gbnews.com/your say. Of course, the criticism is always that the Conservatives could have done something about this during their time in office, could have sorted out the issue a little quicker. Anyway, it is time for the Great British Giveaway now. We've got something brilliant to share with you. Yes, Jane from Manchester became our biggest cash winner to date yesterday, and here's the moment we called her to give her the wonderful news.
Jane, are you sitting down?
No, I don't. I'm not believing this.
Jane, you've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. I just would change my life.
Jane, you have won £54,321 with GB News. Congratulations.
Oh, my God. Do you know what? I've just been shopping and I've got £50 to last me till the 31st of August. And I was trying to work things out.
Go and sit down, have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. That money is coming to you, all right?
Oh, my God, thank you so much.
Bless her. Oh, Jane from Manchester. What a day that must have been. Anyway, it is your chance to be our next winner. It's a slightly different prize. This time we're paying your mortgage for you, or your rent for an entire year, plus £5,000 in tax-free cash. Tax-free cash.
Hopefully it's that way around, not the other. Well, here are the details.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, there you go. And you'll have a lot more cash so you can go on a holiday. Here's the travel weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across some southern parts of Europe tomorrow, there will be some showery rain, which could turn heavy and perhaps even thundery. But a big talking point is still the exceptional heat affecting parts of Portugal, Spain and France. Yesterday, temperatures were in the low to mid-40s in some places. The heat's going to ease a little, but it's going to return again as we go towards the weekend. Further east, some heavy showery rain, like I mentioned, could be a bit thundery at times, particularly across parts of Italy. Elsewhere, it's looking fine and sunny for many through the outlook.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What I want to talk about now, though, is a Christian street preacher who was shut down by London's Transport Police outside King's Cross Station. Now, she has exclusively spoken to GB News, claiming that Christians are being heavily persecuted in this country and that police are not doing this to other religious speakers. Shocking, indeed, if true. Well, are we living in this two-tier approach by the authorities that we hear so much about? I'm delighted to say I am joined now in the studio by that street preacher herself, Monique Bailey.
It is true that the police did tell us that you need a permit, so that is truth, but it's the way it was handled. She was very... It was just astonishing. I just couldn't believe how a police person could come against us like that. Like, we were abiding by the rules. And by the way, I didn't actually put the full clip on just to, in a way, save her, because it actually got worse.
OK.
Yeah.
Monique, can I just quickly ask, if you take a step back and look at Britain, you know, as a Christian, you see the demonstrations that we've had since October 7th, some would say pro-Hamas, anti-Israel demonstrations, pretty overt displays of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
We've had the Lucy Connolly case. We've had, I would argue, clear evidence of a two-tier approach within our judicial legal system. Do you think that we are actually now entering a society where some groups, some religions are treated much more harshly than others? Do you think, for example, if you had been a Muslim preacher in King's Cross Station, the reaction would have been the same?
Yeah, of course, every religion gets something thrown at them, but I do think, of course, Christianity is the most persecuted, and I do think we will see it more.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 8 minutes to 2, and learner drivers will now need to know about CPR to pass their driving test.
Yeah, do you know about how to do that?
A little bit.
No, a little bit, yeah? What do you do?
What, CPR?
Yeah.
You need to have the Bee Gees staying alive in your head at all times, and you compress the sternum, don't you?
Yeah.
And you just press, and you press hard enough actually to break ribs if you're doing it properly in some cases. And you keep going to the tune of Staying Alive about that quickly until someone splutters back to life.
Oh, there you go. Yes, because motorists can be the first people on the scene, obviously, at a very serious incident. But Tom recently passed his test. Did you have to learn anything about CPR?
I don't think so.
No?
But
we have a picture of you, actually, celebrating, don't we? Or looking happy in a car.
This is... OK, I learnt to drive...
There he is, look at you.
Embarrassingly late in life. I fell into the terrible thing of living in the middle of a city for far too long, not needing a car. But I eventually decided to do the test, got it, and now I've got my own little car.
Yeah, and you only spoke to us from the car because you passed.
Well,
if you failed, you wouldn't have.
If I'd have failed, I definitely would not want to be talking live on GB News about how much of a failure I was.
I would have done. I would have sucked it up and come on and said, you know what, it wasn't for me today. Luck was not in my favour.
Well, thankfully,
you passed, yeah.
Times.
I passed fourth time, but I was only 17.
Fair enough. I think you can... well, let's... we're coming up after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot, but we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also, a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this is less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night, temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News. You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community.
So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 13th of August. Unlucky for some. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
Yes, did you hear that? They're smashing the gangs. Or are they? Because despite that pledge, new data shows that the number of people smugglers arrested has actually fallen since Labour came to power. And at the same time, there's been a 50% surge in crossings since that one-in, one-out migrant deal with France was announced, including one so-called mega dinghy carrying 107 migrants.
Well, later this hour, a Border Force vessel is due to arrive here at Dover Harbour with those they picked up from a migrant boat. Will it be a mega dinghy? We'll have that live for you later in the hour.
Thanks, Mark. And we'll also have more on that shocking news today that whilst on a fact-finding mission in northern France, the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says he was attacked with bottles and had a knife pulled on him.
That's right. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp talks to Vance about controlling the southern border, and the following day he's in France, where he gets threatened by a curved machete. More soon.
Elsewhere, police have been told to share suspects' ethnicity and nationality with the public after authorities were accused of covering up offences carried out by asylum seekers. Is this the right approach?
And more live facial recognition vans coming your way. They're going to be rolled out across 7 police forces in England to locate suspects for crimes including sexual offences, violent assaults and murders. But will the use of these vans treat us all as a nation of suspects?
And it's A-level results day tomorrow. I can't wait. I wonder what I'll get. An anxious time for hundreds of thousands of young people. But is going to university still worth it?
And this is a strange one. The Environment Agency, yes, that Quango, says we should all delete our old emails and pictures in order to save water and prevent droughts this summer. What on earth is the logic behind this latest, rather bizarre advice from the Environment Agency? You're going to tell us about the logic behind this this deleting your emails. I'm going to start deleting my emails now. I want to save the planet, Tom.
I loathe this so much. This is the bonkers suggestion on the gov.uk website that we, on this rainy island nation, need to conserve water in a way that desert Arabian states wouldn't dream of doing.
I'm doing it. I'm deleting my old emails.
This is an austerity mindset that is born of fake news. It's nonsense. You shouldn't delete your emails.
I'm doing it.
It won't save water. Data centres use maybe a millionth of a millimetre of water in terms of one email to cool the thing, but only when they're actually processing that data. So if you're commanding it to do an action, like delete an email, then the data centre, ironically, will use some water in cooling. Whereas if it's just sitting there and not doing any action, then, of course, the data centre isn't whizzing and the cooling isn't done. So it's a nonsense piece of advice, even on the logic that it would save a millionth of a millimetre of water.
But that's OK, because they have other advice.
Oh, yes.
They have other advice.
Oh, yes.
So you can install a rain butt to collect your rainwater.
Collect our rainwater like some sort of medieval hamlet.
Have you fixed your leaky toilet, Tom?
I don't have a leaky toilet.
OK, so not one for you. Do you use water from the kitchen to water your plants?
Yes, I do.
As opposed to what?
I suppose we're supposed to collect it in rain buckets.
All right. Okay.
Like the Industrial Revolution never happened.
And you need to start taking shorter showers, Tom.
I refuse. This is the sort of poverty mindset that our government has got into, that we can't have more, we can't have nice things, we must do less, we must ration what little water we get. Do you know what? We haven't built a reservoir in this country since 1992.
Yeah.
In that time, the population has grown by 10 million people. The government should not...
That was my birth year. 1992.
We haven't had a new reservoir since you were born.
I know. Terrible, isn't it?
This is absolutely insane. The government is telling us to make our lives worse because they can't approve doing things that makes the country better.
Yeah, one is under construction, though, at the moment.
They have finally
30 years on.
But this is only going to catch up with some of the population growth. You know, the crazy thing is, countries like Israel, which have a lot less rainfall than the United Kingdom, they get 80% of their water from desalination because they're on the coast. We're on the coast. We could be doing so much to have an abundance of water. We should have the most water of any country on Earth. We should have the most abundant supply.
Maybe we should send you to the well, Tom. We'll send you to the well.
Oh, yeah.
We'll send you to the well, and you can pick up some water for me.
This is Good Afternoon,
I'm going to need it for my
Jack
plants.
and Jill. Before we go up the hill to fetch that pail of water, let's get the latest news headlines.
There we go.
Hello from the newsroom. A very good afternoon to you. Just after 2 o'clock, well, the largest number of migrants ever recorded on one vessel has crossed the English Channel, with 107 people packed onto an 18-metre inflatable overnight. The extra-long boat, 7 metres longer than the rafts usually used by people smugglers, has been intercepted and taken to Dover Harbour, where it's being examined by Border Force. Senior security sources say that design, seen previously in the Mediterranean, has not been used in the Channel until now and could signal a new supply line of larger vessels. Officials are warning the bigger boats could carry many more migrants per crossing at a time when arrivals have already reached record levels. Today alone, around 200 people have been seen crossing the UK waters. Well, that comes as Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has said he was threatened with a machete while visiting an illegal migrant camp in Calais. Mr Philp was in France to observe small boats' activities along the coast. Labour has now introduced a one-in, one-out returns deal with France, but crossings continue. So far this year, almost 27,200 migrants have crossed the Channel. That is up 47% on the same point last year. The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has referred himself to the Environment Agency after going fishing with US Vice President Vance without the required rod licence. Anglers aged 13 and over in England and Wales must hold a licence to fish for freshwater species. The Foreign Office said the oversight was administrative and that Mr Lammy purchased the necessary licences as soon as he became aware, notifying the watchdog. Mr Vance, who was visiting while on holiday in the Cotswolds, joked that all his children caught fish, but the Foreign Secretary, well, he did not. All fish caught were returned to the private lake. Live facial recognition is being rolled out across England and Wales as part of a major overhaul of neighbourhood policing. 10 camera-equipped vans will be deployed in 7 police force areas to target sex offenders and suspects wanted for the most serious crimes. The Home Office says the algorithm has been independently. Police chiefs, though, insist the technology is being used ethically and has already helped to locate thousands of offenders. Meanwhile, police forces are also being encouraged to name the ethnicity and nationality of suspects in high-profile cases, all to counter misinformation under immediate changes from the National Police Chiefs Council. The move, backed by ministers, follows incidents where a lack of detail has fuelled false rumours. Details will still be released at the discretion of individual forces and legal and ethical factors in mind. And immigration status checks will remain the Home Office's responsibility. Critics warn it could create unrealistic expectations for disclosure in every case, but the Policing Minister, Dame Deanna Johnson, says the guidance will bring greater transparency and more public confidence.
I would really welcome the openness and transparency of giving that information about ethnicity and nationality at the point of charge. We will give names and addresses often at that point, but in these high-profile cases, it's absolutely right that that transparency is there and that the information is provided. In terms of asylum seekers and the status of any claim they're making, that in future, in cases, that will be looked at and that information could be made available. We're working through now how that would actually work.
In other news this afternoon, a 16-year-old girl and two boys, one aged 14, the other 15, have been charged with the murder of a 49-year-old man in Lansdowne-on-Sea. Police were called to Warden Bay Road shortly after 7 p.m. on Sunday evening, following a disturbance involving a small number of people. Mr Cashford was found with multiple injuries and died at the scene. The three teenagers, all from London, were arrested soon afterwards and will appear at Medway Magistrates Court later today. The government says it's dropping proposals to use a former retail site in a Hampshire town centre to house migrants, ruling it unsuitable after more than 1,000 people joined an anti-immigration protest there last week. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who called the site utterly inappropriate, is due to address campaigners there tonight. It will be the first time an MP has spoken at a protest over asylum accommodation. In Essex, meanwhile, Epping Forest District Council is seeking a High Court injunction to block the Bell Hotel from also housing asylum seekers, warning it risks further escalating community tensions. And Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, is set to join European leaders and Donald Trump on a call this afternoon as Trump is defending his planned summit with Vladimir Putin coming up on the Friday of this week. Posting on Truth Social, Trump has criticised journalists for claiming Putin has already won and instead saying, quote, "We are winning on everything." Zelensky is currently in Berlin for that talk today on video call with the leaders, including Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, who's expected to stress that no decisions should be taken without Ukraine's consent. Moscow has repeated its peace terms, demands that Kyiv and European leaders say are unacceptable. Trump, meanwhile, has previously suggested some swapping of territories could be part of a deal, comments, though, that have drawn concern in Ukraine and across much of Europe. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with your 60-second update in around half an hour's time. Next, though, the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here are those markets this hour. The pound will buy you $1.3560 and €1.1572 euros. The price of gold is £2,478, 87 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is currently at 9,166 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 minutes past 2. Now, today, the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has been in Calais on his own fact-finding mission. But whilst doing so, he says he had a knife pulled on him, a machete.
Yeah, we spoke with him shortly after the incident. Let's take a listen.
First of all, as I was talking to some migrants, another one pulled out a curved machete and started brandishing it, at which point we left pretty quickly. And then as we were leaving, we got pelted with glass bottles, and as we drove off, other like bottles got thrown at the car. So it was a pretty nerve.
Well, we're joined by our political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, this is, I suppose, just a small section of the violence and disorder that does go on in and around those Calais camps.
The big political question is who's coming across here in these small boats. They're not being vetted. No one knows who they are. They arrived here illegally, 50,000 since Labour came to power. Here's an indication of what is existing, what is happening in these migrant camps. To be threatened with a curved machete, that's not a knife to cut fruit or vegetables, that's a weapon, and that's what he said. Also, from Chris Philp, he's been posting on his social media clips of him being having rocks or bottles thrown at him. Here's what he's put out there now.
Quite clearly, they're planning to cross the channel illegally. And I said to him, that's illegal. And he said, I don't care. I mean, he was completely up.
Well, right,
okay, let's go. We've got to go. I mean, he was completely up.
Well, right,
okay, let's go. We've got to go.
There you have it. Now, he's not a reporter, he's a politician, Chris Philp, but that's evidence there's been things thrown at him. He says about the curved machete, no reason to doubt him, but again, it's a claim by a politician. But we are seeing increasingly people trying to highlight what's going on here. We as journalists have been out there, with our colleague Patrick Christis, I think very bravely reporting from inside those camps, and now politicians are getting in on the act and trying to show what is happening in these camps.
I mean, it must seem... I mean, it's easy to forget that France is a developed country. And ordinarily...
Is it?
I think when you look at footage like that, I think it is. Ordinarily, when you go to a Western European country, you don't expect to run into someone with a machete.
No.
You don't expect bottles to be thrown at you. You might expect that in sub-Saharan Africa, but you don't expect that in a developed Western European nation. And yet, there are huge parts of France where there is just a law taken to this sort of tribal instinct rather than a policed and civilised society.
There's a point raised by President Macron at that press conference in Northwood. He said that for every pound we spend, the UK spends, and it's hundreds of millions of pounds of our money spent trying to deal with this issue, it's 3 times more for the French. And he says that the mayors in northern France are very unhappy about this. Chris Philp went to see those camps 24 hours after meeting J.D. Vance. I can disclose. Sources tell me that J.D. Vance and he discussed how to control the border. How is it that Donald Trump has sealed off all crossings, nearly all crossings by illegal migration, from a very big number under Joe Biden?
Yeah, millions under Joe Biden.
Millions. The Tories are taking advice directly from a figure close to Donald Trump. And also in the Cotswolds, there's been issues there locally with the scale of the visit of the US Vice President. Here's a clip of this, what it's like to go out to the shops with J.D. Vance. Just count these cars. There we have it. For those on the radio can't see now, we're watching a police outrider. And here we go, the first car, second, that's the third one. They're big black vehicles. Here comes the fourth. And so it goes on. Now, this is taking...
5.
You're counting
6.
this, Tom?
Yeah,
okay.
You carry on. I'll count in my head.
OK, good. So more cars. Again, that's about I would say 10 SUVs.
10 there, that's the 10th.
That's right. They're big black cars, one with the roof box on. No idea which one J.D. Vance is in. We assume he's in them.
15th coming up
people
here.
Carriers. That looks like the Mideast there, which is used to take J.D. Vance around the world. Where are we now, Tom?
20. This is number 20 here.
So 20. Still going past those on the radio, can't see this.
21.
And a huge vehicle at the end.
22.
OK, there we have it. I mean, that is a scale of the imposition on the Cotswolds from J.D. Vance's holiday. He's now caused his own story here in the UK because, of course, he went fishing, didn't he, with the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, last week. Now, it turns out, and the Foreign Office admit this, that David Lammy didn't have a rod licence to go fishing. I think you see some pictures now on screen of what was happening last week. Deeply, deeply embarrassing and an apology necessary, I think, from David Lammy.
So the two men, the Vice President of the United States and the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, went fishing in a government-owned pond on the estate of the Foreign Secretary.
For the cameras, Tom.
For the cameras. And now the Foreign Secretary has referred himself to the Environment Agency.
There he is. Look, there it is.
Because he didn't have a licence for his
rod. I wouldn't
rod.
say he's holding that rod very confidently, and I think they put any fish back they caught. We think J.D. Vance caught more than David Lammy.
I mean, what is the state of this country?
Well, let me tell you
what a whimsical fish.
There's not much fishing going on in David Lammy's constituency.
Without an investigation from the Environment Agency.
What would Jeremy Fisher make of it in Beatrix Potter? But very briefly, Environment Agency, they tell us this. Everyone who goes fishing needs a licence, Tom. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
To help improve our rivers, lakes and sport anglers' love. We understand the relevant licences have been purchased. Now, what that means is simply that they didn't have the right licences admitted by the Foreign Office and they applied them retrospectively.
Now, Chris, I do want to hear much more about this because I do think it's quite amusing as well as interesting. But we do need to go to Dover because Mark White has some breaking footage to bring us. Mark.
Well, you're looking now at the Border Force vessel Volunteer coming into Dover Harbour, rounding the corner into the Western Jet foil with the latest batch of migrants that have been picked up in the English Channel. This is a group that set off from a beach down near Boulogne, so quite far down the coast. In fact, both the boatloads that have come in this morning have set off from that end of the coastline in northern France. And the big question, of course, given the breaking news that we've been reporting all morning about this new mega dinghy that we've now seen being used by the people smugglers in the English Channel, is whether this Border Force vessel, the Volunteer, has got a very significant number on board. If so, then it may well have come from a mega dinghy. I'm not sure that that is the case. colleagues here looking at these pictures seem to think there's certainly quite a few migrants at the front of that vessel, but not necessarily at the back of the vessel. They would be packed out front and back if you're upwards of 100 or more on board that vessel. So it may be just your normal 11-metre long rib that or inflatable raft that the people smugglers use. These new mega rafts that we've been talking about this morning, the mega dinghy, is 18 metres long, which is just incredible in terms of the size. And although last night it was carrying 107 migrants when it came in, actually they could carry considerably more than that, given the fact they are 7 metres longer than the normal boats that come across the channel that regularly carry 80, sometimes 90 migrants on board. So, you know, this is a real concern, clearly, for the government, for the authorities here in the UK and around Europe in their efforts to combat the migration crisis. These mega dinghies have been observed in the Mediterranean over the last year, but they have never made it this far north to the English Channel until last night, and that dinghy that crossed into UK waters. It's unlikely to be a one-off, to be honest. The people smugglers have probably got a batch of them to see how they take to the English Channel. They might not take to the Channel, which can be pretty choppy and rough in comparison to the Mediterranean. And when you've got a longer vessel that's 18 metres long, it can really struggle in these waves that can swell up and buckle the underneath of the inflatable boats and cause them to collapse in on themselves. So it might not take, but of course, if it does, the people smugglers are going to go for it. Of course they are. At the end of the day, they're all about making the maximum profit for themselves. And if you can send a boat across with upwards of 100, 110, 20, whatever they decide to put on a boat, it's going to be a lot more profitable for them than another boat coming in with, say, 60 or 70 migrants. What happens now, I should just say, is the Border Force vessel, the Catamaran Volunteer, is just sort of manoeuvring before tying up the Western jet foil. Then there'll be a sort of a final check of those migrants on board that vessel before they're then led out. They're led out in groups of 10 from the Border Force vessel and up the gangway that you can see, the metal gangway to the front of that Border Force vessel. They're then taken to what is the temporary migrant processing centre at Dover Harbour, a mixture of porter cabins that are sprung up just in the last couple of years there to be able to do these cursory checks as sort of medical triage on these migrants that come across, check who they are, check what condition they're in, and then of course they're bussed off to the main migrant processing centre, which is further down the coast in Manston. And in Manston, at that point, they're there for a couple of days, some 48 hours at least, while they undergo very significant checks, biometric checks, like fingerprints, DNA, to try to get a handle on who these people are, because the fact is, no one knows exactly who they are. The people smugglers tell them to throw away their passports and other identifying document, and we know that a number of those that have crossed the channel, according to security sources, have been people that have been linked to terrorism, groups like ISIS, others that have been linked to more general criminality. So they need to get a handle on them. They want to know as well, whether they've actually already claimed asylum in another European country, and whether there could be efforts to return them to that country, such as France, under this new returns deal that started just last Wednesday. And we can see these migrants now, as promised, coming up the gangway, left that Border Force vessel Volunteer, now making their way up, as I say, in groups of 10, up the gangway where they're being escorted by other Border Force officials down into the porta cabins here for that initial processing. As I was saying, you know, that returns deal, a partial returns deal, a very modest number of migrants that we will return to France, about 50 a week, has been vastly overtaken by what we've seen in the past week crossing the Channel. We are now, including today's numbers in the Channel, at 2,200.
Mark, just a question that keeps coming in the inbox is what happens to the dinghies? I know there have been some videos circulating giving the impression that the dinghies are sent back to France. What's the truth? What happens with the dinghies?
Yeah, I've had my sort of social media posts asking that question as well. The fact is that video that's doing the rounds is an absolute nonsense. Yeah. That video is from 2022 and it doesn't show boats being loaded to go to France. It shows boats being loaded on the back of a lorry to take them to a compound here in the UK, in Kent. What was happening in that video was the lorries had to go and get their certification, which was near the port. So people were clearly filming it back in 2022 and thinking that those boats were destined back to France. I mean, that, you know, as cynical as I am, even, you know, I wouldn't ever suggest that that was a process that was underway. So that we can dispel. All of the boats that are recovered in the Channel, and in fact, Border Force contract two separate vessels, the Calais and the Taku, and these two vessels go out every day, and on a busy day, of course, and they pick up the inflatables, the migrant rafts, after the migrants have been taken on board the Border Force vessel. So they collect them, they take them back to Kent, and then when they're taken back to the Kent coast, they are then picked up by lorry and taken to a compound, and there evidence is gathered from them, obviously, potentially fingerprints, DNA, anything else they can use to identify who the particular people smuggling gang might be. And then at some point, those vessels are disposed of. And that's the process that goes on, Emily.
That's really good to know because, yes, there are these videos that go viral and the truth takes a while to come out.
Certainly does. Mark, while we have you, we're seeing these extraordinary images. We're seeing what, again, looks like mostly male individuals coming off this ship. But there is a clear question here, given that the government has been cracking down, also they say, on the supply chain of these boats. That the government has been trying to track the movement from China through the Middle East, up through Eastern Europe and across to France, the way that these vessels travel. We signed a deal with Germany to make it easier to sort of seize the transport of these materials. And yet, doesn't this just show, this mega boat that has brought so many people along today, that no matter how many moles are trying to be whacked with the hammer of the holes, just another one will pop up somewhere else, that this idea that the supply chains can be broken with enough policing is a bit of a fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult job, to be honest, because the supply lines are so well established now. We did have a success that was a sort of part Border Force operation and part Bulgarian law enforcement border security operation at one of the main border crossings there, where several dozen small boats that were destined for Europe and then onward to northern France were seized. So they have their successes, but you know, it's just like the international drugs trade. It's so vast that yes, you can take out a supply, a drug shipment coming in on a container ship, but there are many, many others that are just heading in this direction at the same time. So you'll make an impact, but it will only ever be a minor blip in the industrial scale criminality that is either the drugs trade or indeed the international people smuggling trade.
And as we're just seeing, I think we've seen everyone now disembark from that particular boat there, as Tom says, mostly males that we could see, all with life jackets. And now the question comes to accommodation, does it? Yvette Cooper will tell us, presumably, that these people will be detained. They should be, if this returns deal is going ahead and is progressing. Detained, and then what? The French have to say, OK, we'll take this one back and we'll send you this person instead.
Yeah, that's exactly the way they'll do it, Emily. And of course, we've already been told about the detentions. The detentions were earlier in the week. I should just say that we can now confirm that the number of migrants who are on board the Border Force vessel Volunteer is 73. Our producer Chris just counted them for us, 73. So not a mega dinghy load, a normal sized dinghy load, but enough, of course, as far as people in this country are concerned in terms of the numbers that are coming across the channel.
OK, well, Mark White, thanks indeed for bringing us that breaking news, that live footage there of the very latest migrant arrival.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Do stick with us. The Environment Agency says we should all be deleting our old emails and pictures from our mobile phones, from our computers and everything else from the cloud in order to save water and prevent droughts this summer. So what's the logic behind this latest, rather bizarre advice from the Quango? But after the break...
Yes, police have been told to share suspects' ethnicity and nationality with the public after authorities were accused of covering up offences carried out by asylum seekers. Is this the right approach? Well, all of that after your latest headlines.
Hello, a very good afternoon to you. Just after 2:30, the top story, a record 107 migrants have arrived in the UK on a single small boat in what officials say is a worrying new development in the Channel crossings crisis. And in the last few minutes, a further 73 brought ashore in Dover. Authorities fear larger boats in future could allow people smugglers to send even bigger groups across. 3 children have been charged with the murder of a man at a seaside resort. The 2 boys, aged 14 and 15, and a 16-year-old girl are accused of attacking 49-year-old Alexander Cashford during an altercation on the North Kent coast. Live facial recognition is expanding across England and Wales with 10 vans in 7 forces. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says they'll target people who are wanted for the most serious crimes. President Volodymyr Zelensky is joining European leaders ahead of Donald Trump's summit with Putin in Alaska on Friday. He warns that any deal without Ukraine would be dead decisions. Germany, the UK and other EU allies are pressing the United States to keep Ukraine fully involved. Gaza City has been hit again by intense airstrikes as Israel prepares to seize the city. United Nations and global leaders are warning of famine. The IDF, though, says it is targeting Hamas. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with your news at 3.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot. But we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also, a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this is less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. There are significant delays on major roads nationwide. In Shropshire, the M54 eastbound between junctions 4 and 3 has a collision, closing one lane. Oxfordshire's M40 northbound exit slip at junction 10 is shut due to an overturned vehicle. Leeds has issues on the A1M southbound entry slip at junction 45, closing all lanes due to a collision. In Devon, the A38 westbound has a traffic incident affecting one lane. And on the trains, Greater Anglia has disruptions between Norwich and Lowestoft, while Merseyrail has bus replacements between New Brighton and Birkenhead North. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
I think I'm going to be joining Eamon and Penny.
Oh yeah, tuning in.
Bit of breakfast.
6 a.m. sharp. I hope you've set your alarm.
2 days
only. It
only.
doesn't start at 6. It starts at 5:59 for the national anthem.
Yeah, and I'm there every day.
You are?
Yep.
Me too.
Yep. I salute the country.
Hope you're standing up when you do that.
Yes, I'm standing up, although I'm doing a lot more sitting down.
Yes.
At the moment, but it is 2:36.
Certainly is. That's the time now. And under new guidance, police will be encouraged to disclose the ethnicity and nationality of subjects charged in high-profile and sensitive investigations.
Policing Minister Dame Diana Johnson says the government want police to release these details in most cases with an aim of reducing the risk to public safety.
Well, it all comes as the government has rolled out vans equipped with facial recognition cameras across Britain to catch criminals.
Well, joining us now is former police officer Graham Wetton. Graham, thank you very much for your time on this one. So is this a good idea, then, release more data at the point of charge?
Yeah, good afternoon to you both. Yeah, I think it is. I think we've seen the way that social media now takes over a lot of the news reporting, and almost like immediately after an incident, we're seeing all sorts of stuff being posted online. A lot of it is disinformation, it's inaccurate. So policing needs to get ahead of the game with some of these. I think it's right these guidelines come out. They're often damned if they do release information and then they're claimed to be incorrect or inaccurate or even lying. And if they don't release information, then they're accused of covering something up. And a lot of this information isn't evidential. It's not, police don't gather this information as part of the investigation. And the guidelines are only about once charged. So we've still got that gap between someone being arrested for an offence and then being charged maybe 2 or 3 days later. So there's still going to be a gap where policing has to deal with some misinformation or inaccurate reporting going online.
Yeah, how do you change the culture around this, though? Because it will still be up to the police themselves to decide whether it's in the public interest, as I understand it. And presumably some police officers, some police authorities around the country will be more worried about potentially upsetting ethnic communities or cohesion in one way or another, worried about those sort of aspects.
Yeah, great question, great point to raise, because it almost becomes like a postcode lottery in some cases. It depends on the community you're policing. It depends on the victim, the ethnicity, nationality of your victim, then your suspect that's been arrested. Then you've got to balance the three things together. Where has it happened? What's the community there? It's a challenging one for policing, when to release that information. And again, how much to release, because you don't want to prejudice any potential trial or any investigation if it's still at the investigative phase. So it's a challenging one for police, how much information to release, and it has to be balanced against almost what is being reported online, what people are saying. So police needs to keep abreast of social media and what is being posted and alleged, and if they need to then come forward and say, actually, that's inaccurate, we can release this much information. But I think policing across the UK needs to look a lot more about the depth of information, the detail they give when there are these serious and high-profile cases. Give a lot more facts out, be a lot more transparent and open about when they were called, who arrived, what they found, without prejudicing any potential trial.
Well, that's the difficult balance, and it does seem that sometimes the balance is sort of in the wrong place, given how quickly the media landscape has moved on. I mean, it's no longer the case that they can just sort of phone up the BBC and think that that's that. I mean, everyone's almost sort of their own reporter online. I do have to move on to one more point of contention, really, here from the police today. Facial recognition vans being rolled out across England, trying to catch criminals, but of course civil rights groups are concerned about the freedom of the rest of us.
Yeah, I saw that one as well. I'm in favour of it. I think it's an advancement, a technological advancement from the days where I literally used to go out in a police car with maybe a couple of suspects' pictures, either in a pocketbook or in the car, looking for them myself. We've now got vans that are equipped with possibly thousands of images, which are all taken from a police custody database. So they're not just images we've taken off online or something. They are literally people that have been arrested, brought into a custody suite, had their image taken. That image is then kept by the police. And that's what's being compared against. If it's you or I are filmed in the street and we've never been arrested, had our picture taken, our images aren't then kept. They are deleted the same day. The system is basically comparing our images against people that are wanted for serious offences. And they've had some significant successes in removing some very dangerous people from the street because of this technology. You can't expect police officers to have to memorise every suspect's face and go out looking for them. This technology takes us steps ahead of this. It's like having, dare I say it, 50 police officers with 50 faces each in their head walking around the streets.
OK, well, Graham Whetone, thank you very much, former police officer. Appreciate your time this afternoon. The Home Office have been in touch. They say the public and police forces themselves want greater clarity on when, why and how information is released and the legitimate and compelling reasons it may need to be withheld.
Well, moving on now. Tomorrow, hundreds of thousands of teenagers will receive their A-level results. For many, the results will determine whether or not they get into the university of choice. Now, in the United Kingdom, we proudly boast some of the best universities in the world. But not all are up to scratch. And with a continuous rise in the so-called Mickey Mouse degrees, we're asking, is it really worth the huge cost?
Well, yes, that's a big question. Let's get more with economist Roger Bootle, who's written for The Telegraph on this, going as far as to say that it's time Britain realised that going to university is a scam. Roger, one of your key arguments, it appears to be that actually going to university, you're not always likely to earn any more than you would be if you didn't.
I think it's important to distinguish between different universities and different courses and different students. I'm not saying that no one should go to university, quite the opposite. As you say, we have some of the best ones in the world and they turn out some fantastic students who go on to do wonderful things. But we've expanded to the position now where it's something like 50% of youngsters go to university. It used to be, when I was a youngster, more like 5 or 10%. No one's really thought this through very clearly, I think. This is bad for the country that we're wasting this scarce labour resource. It's bad for so many of the students who frankly aren't qualified for university education and don't do very much with it. And then they're cast out onto the labour market without skills and with a massive debt.
I suppose the utility of university might not, whisper it, be so much in what people are actually taught. In this country, we don't have sort of vocational degrees in the same way that they do in the United States of America. I mean, people will go off and read history and then become a management consultant. I mean, it doesn't necessarily match, but what it does do is signal. It signals to employers that people can, do their work diligently, can turn up on time, have a relatively decent IQ. But I suppose that signal gets depleted if everyone has a degree.
Well, I think that's right. It's a pretty expensive signal, by the way, to send all these people to university for 3 years to sort them out, sort of the wheat from the chaff. Actually, that sorting is done perfectly adequately by A-levels. So what's happened over the last many years now is that the A-level requirements have diminished and A-levels themselves have been dumbed down a bit. So this sifting, which used to be done through that exam system, well, now you've got university graduates and non-graduates, but that doesn't tell you very much. And the poor employer is left having to do the sifting themselves.
What should we do about universities that, I'm just thinking, if you can get into a university with 3 Ds and a U at A-level, would it not be better off just doing your A-levels again, you know?
Well, it might be better for you. I'm not sure it's better for the system as a whole. I think the key thing is we've just got to get out of this way of thinking that academic education is the be-all and end-all. It isn't. I worked in the financial markets for many years, and it was common then to see people who'd left school at 18 or 16, some of the brightest people I've ever met, and many of them went on to have fantastic careers. You know, life isn't entirely about studying something and writing and reading about it. There's another way, and we used to be better at this in this country. We used to have more practical means of education, technical colleges, etc.
Yeah, and it is remarkable, actually. If you look at some of the biggest companies, the most successful companies in the world, very often it's people who didn't complete their university degrees. Yeah. People who got into the universities, the whole world can see, OK, this chap's quite bright, you know, they passed that signal, but they don't need to spend 3 years at Harvard and graduate to found Facebook. They can do that in year 1.
They can do that in year 1. Roger, we have to leave it there, but really appreciate your time. Roger Bootle, economist, you can read his article in the Telegraph today. But we do have some breaking news to bring you, because a man will appear in court today to face criminal charges after officers were called to the Bell Hotel on Epping High Road on Tuesday the 12th of August.
Mohammed Shawak, a Syrian national who resides at the hotel, has been charged with 2 counts of common assault, 4 counts of assault by beating and 1 count of sexual assault on a male, contrary to Section 3 of the Sexual Offences Act.
The offences are alleged to have taken place between 25th of July and the 12th of August. Now, if there are any developments throughout the afternoon, we will keep you updated here on GB News, so stick with us.
Right, let's get away from that now for a moment and check the travel weather. Hopefully some holiday sunshine.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across some southern parts of Europe tomorrow, there will be some showery rain, which could turn heavy and perhaps even thundery. But a big talking point is still the exceptional heat affecting parts of Portugal, Spain and France. Yesterday, temperatures were in the low to mid-40s in some places. The heat's going to ease a little, but it's going to return again as we go towards the weekend. Further east, some heavy showery rain, like I mentioned, could be a bit thundery at times, particularly across parts of Italy. Elsewhere, it's looking fine and sunny for many through the outlook.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around, a nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News. You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You cannot break a record, select week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
All right, good afternoon, Britain. It's 2:50 now. I've got some advice for you, Tom, because I know you're worried about the planet.
Oh, yeah.
And you're worried about the fact we don't have any reservoirs being built in this country. So there's a top tip from the government agency, the Environment Agency, for you.
OK,
How you can solve this. So it might sound a bit odd, but this is the exact advice the Environment Agency is suggesting, and it's to delete your old emails.
To delete your emails?
And pictures.
To save water?
Yes.
Why?
Because data centres require a lot of water, apparently. And so if all your emails are clogging up the cloud and whatever else, the data centre's going to need more water. So if everyone deletes their emails, I suppose the data centre won't need so much water, Tom.
Well, that's arrant nonsense. Absolute, technologically illiterate garbage. No, like, this is the most ridiculous piece of advice that I think I've ever read on a government website. This was the press release that was put out yesterday, telling us that there's a nationally significant water shortfall on this island nation. And here it said there, delete old emails and pictures as data centres require vast amounts of water to cool their systems. Now, data centres do use water to cool their systems, but only because it's cheaper than using other forms of coolant. And what do data centres do? Well, when they're processing data, they get hot. So the act of deleting your email is asking the data centre to do a process.
So all those emails I've just deleted?
That's used some water.
Oh,
do you know how much water it will have used?
Oh, no.
On email? Maybe a millionth of a millimetre of water.
That's all right. I'll have a second less in the shower.
You could have one drop less in your cup of water that you have in front of you on this desk. This could have one measly raindrop less in it, and that's probably more emails than you'd ever send in your life. I mean, it is such a nonsense piece of advice. I don't know who's been advising the Environment Agency on this.
They're supposed to advise us.
But does it get to this point of this austerity mindset this country's been in? We haven't had a reservoir built since 1992, since the year you were born. Why, in this country, when we should have bountiful water, do we have constant hosepipe bans? Desert nations don't have hosepipe bans because they had adequate water supply. They build reservoirs and desalination plants, but we do none of it.
Well, there's no excuse for not fixing your leaky toilet, though, Tom. So, you know, you should do that. That's one of the advices given.
We should have such abundant water supply that everyone can have a constantly leaky toilet. That everyone can take hour-long showers and no one needs to tell us not to.
There you go. There's the pitch to the nation. Take that, Environment Agency. Build some more reservoirs.
Absolutely. Well, Martin Daubney's up next. I hear he has very short showers.
I don't know where you get your intel, Tom Howard. I'm impeccably clean. And by the way, the person he's calling down around here is you. You're losing your rag about these emails. Let's pour some cold water over Tom Howard. On a serious point, today is all about people power. Waterlooville. Locals are celebratory jubilant. The Battle of Waterlooville to have the asylum centre there. The luxury asylum centre closed down has been victorious. We'll be live from the ground. Plus, I meet an extraordinary woman from the Women's Safety Initiative who's pushing for compulsory CCTV in all taxis in Britain following an astonishing 80% reduction in sexual assaults and rapes in a Portsmouth pilot scheme. It's time to get CCTV in cameras to keep women safe. It's time for people power. It's time for the People's Channel. Join me 3 till 6 on the Martin Daubney Show. But for now, here's your magnificent weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot, but we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said, though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still, though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also, a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night, temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Despite what Donald Trump's saying about ceasefires and whatever, reports have been coming out overnight about continuing missile attacks.
Well, British expat David Mason was caught up in those missile attacks on Friday when he and his son barely escaped with their lives after an Iranian missile exploded next to them in a bombing raid in northern Israel.
Let's speak to David because David joins us now from his hospital bed, actually, to tell us about this terrifying ordeal. David, how are you?
I'm alive.
I'm alive. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
How bad was it? A close call, was it?
It was very close. The missile hit about 25 feet away from us.
God.
It blew me completely, that's basically off my feet. And it was just dark and just blood everywhere, basically. I landed. As I woke up, there was a body. I was on top of a body which I thought was my son. And as I cleared all the debris away, I looked up and realized my son was standing there with a hole basically in his neck, shot. And, I basically went into father mode, as my other children said, dad mode, took my shirt off, wrapped it around his neck to make sure that he wasn't bleeding more. And then he turned to me and said, "But Dad, you're splurting blood from everywhere. My arms, my back, my head." And I said, "Don't worry about me."
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting live from the heart of a very sticky Westminster and all across the UK.